session now. Hi. Hey, it's skycat.live. What's up? It's 2:15 p.m. on 5/30/2024. That is a May 30th, 2024. That is a Friday. 2:15 in this foul year of our Lord 2024. Hello, people. I come to you today with a unanimous guilty verdict on Trump. 34 guilty felony charges. We have just reached this verdict just 5 minutes ago, and I went live after doing about an hour of work in the garden, going shopping and buying alcohol, and crying after I realized that half of my country had just had their heart broken, and now I'm here to watch all of the terrible, shitty news spiral as the fireworks go firing off. So let's listen to Trump news from some kind of source that isn't tribalist. I'll take AP. AP sounds good. Fire it off. Yep, convicted on all charges. We'll watch the AP. Wow, look at all those Americans just standing there milling around, totally lost. Jesus fucking Christ. MAGA tears, yum yum. You can see that. We'll just watch the comments live, guys. Sorry, so I'm going to drop it off the big screen here. And we'll watch this shit live in theater mode together. A monumental moment for this country. We've had criminals before, with Nixon took the impeachment over the actual Watergate conviction. And this is a vodka day. This is a vodka day. For while I am happy for a great evil being sussed out, I am also unhappy for many of my brethren. You know, I believe in unity, and many of my brethren are the alt-right. I wouldn't even call them the right. I would call them libertarians or alt-right, and I'm sure some of them like Trump. I know one of them does, who's a dear friend of mine. And so, I will not glory in the... I will not wallow in crapulence and, cheer the downfall of another. We will say, here's to you. Thank you for trying to lead this country however you saw fit, even if it wasn't something that I liked, Thank you for trying to lead this country. I'm sorry they crucified you for it. I'm sure you're a fucking criminal. Or they wouldn't have hit you with 190 felonies, Who the fuck has 190 felonies? And I mean, that's actually what the number is. What do? We looked at the stream a couple weeks ago. It's like 192, wasn't it? It's 192 felonies. This is only 34 of the 192 they want this criminal for. I don't believe all of those charges are just leftists trying to take shots at him. I believe those are cops trying to take shots at a criminal. It's unfortunate, but I'm not there. My other problem with this is, and I'm sure this is what the right will say, I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't know if he committed crimes. I wasn't there. I have to believe in what some jury and some cops tell me and some witness and stuff. I wasn't there. And this is one of those problems that I always feel about the criminal system, is it seems to be based a lot off hearsay. And these days, I look at a criminal trial and I think, why don't we just haul out the whole town and anybody who's been wronged by whatever fucking asshole, and let them fucking tear the person apart. I don't really know why we have prisons, whatever. If something needs to be sussed out by the community, let them do it Old West style and let them get their fucking justice, frankly. All of these walls between us, now he's going to face the appeals. There he is. He's coming out. I can't believe this shit. Time was somebody like Jack Ruby would step and fucking... Or, so was it Jack Ruby? No, it was... Somebody like...
It was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge.
Rigged trial? I'm going to put it on the speakers.
Trial, a disgrace. They won't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros backed.
You were just convicted of 34 felonies.
And the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong.
If I was convicted of 34 felonies, I would not be able to walk out of the courthouse. Why are you, Mr. Richer?
Okay.
Why are you allowed to walk out this courthouse today? If I was convicted of 34 felonies, I would be stuck there. But you're rich, so you just get to walk, huh?
This was done by the Biden administration.
I'm sick of the savage hypocrisy.
In order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight.
Your projection
till the end,
is...
we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell.
Please stop.
Have the same country anymore.
God damn it, I love this country. This country has not gone to hell. It's gone to hell because of you, maybe.
Millions and millions of
I love my country. This place is not a shithole. Stop saying it is.
From prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
You want to fight, okay?
Are you going to drop out?
World likes a fighter, you know?
You just agreed.
Okay. Not in jail after 34 felonies. Wish I could say the same. I faced jail for far fucking less. Look at him just walk out the courthouse like he's not guilty of 34 felonies. What a fucked up country we have now. It has not gone to hell. Certain judicial, legislative, and executive systems have gone to hell. The people have not gone to hell. The country has not gone to hell. I will not stand by. I will not stand by while you denigrate this place. We have enough. We have enough of that from everyone else. These cops are terrified. These cops are fucking terrified. You can see it on their faces. Every cop there is fucking terrified. You can see it. Look at them. They're right there on the screen. You can see it. They're fucking terrified. I don't like fear on Americans' faces. It makes me very angry. What a 1984 Orwellian web they weave, full of deceit and politics and lies and blackmail and pederasty. So now we mill about while we absorb all this. And the country kind of wanders around in a shock for a while. I figured they were going to let him go, honestly. I mean, after how they let Nixon skate, I thought they were going to let him, you know, they were just going to let him go. I mean, that's what they let Nixon do. But I you know, of the two, I consider Nixon to be far, far, far worse than Trump because Nixon was extremely influential on the outcome of the Vietnam War. However you view it. I would say the worst thing Trump did was sort of sleep on COVID. That's about the worst thing you could say he did. I think there's all these things he did with all of his demon bankers and all these lies about his capital and hiding his income and tax evasion and all this, but I can't think of anybody in the upper class who doesn't do that. Let's just be fucking honest here. I can't think of a single upper class person that I've either met or have heard of that doesn't lie, cheat, and steal whatever dollar they can from the government, their businesses, whatever. I can't think of anybody in the upper class who... Now, we have some good people. I'm not trying to say the whole world is a bunch of thieves in the temple. I'm trying to say that the rich people that I know will do anything to stay that way. And so this leads to very corrupt dealings in our background. Right now, today, as we speak, I get the feeling there's a cabal kind of sitting in the background, totally bored because they like called this 3 months ago, and they flipped the coin and they lost it like Aristotle and Narcissus, and they're like, You know, they knew this outcome like 3 months ago. And I think what they're really trying to do is they're learning from people like me. They're learning from the streamers. They're learning how to farm content. So they plan all this like some kind of fucking video game season on Fortnite, or like how the video game developers do on live service games. They plan out like a whole season with a season pass, and there's players, and there's like, you know, politics and maybe a court case and all this. But I swear to God, most of this seems like Shakespeare to me, and that's an overall, like, my mother would my mother made a beautiful quote this year that really stuck with me. It was the color of the glasses that we see the world through. Like so like the color I see now is the theatrics. I see a world of theatrics and their governmental policies, their court cases like this, the Jeffrey Epstein case. It's like a folie à deux between the elephant and the jackass, where they're like dancing in this endless tribalist war. And I don't think they really care who the losses are. I don't think they care who in Trump's who, like, I don't think they care how, like, now, so say what you want about Trump. And this sounds like ableist pro-criminal shit. And I mean, trust me, I've got a rap sheet a mile long, but no felonies. I spent goddamn 30 grand dodging felonies, you know what I'm saying? And I was a kingpin at one point in my life, pulling 3,200 a day. And like, I've been there up, and I've been there down. And I gotta say, this is a man who never pulled a gun on someone. This is a man who hopefully never raped anybody, but there's definitely some people who say that he did. This is how, I mean, I'm just hoping. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. I don't know. It's like Ricky from motherfucking, you know, Trailer Park Boys. I don't know. It's like, I don't know what these people did. I wasn't there in the fucking hallway as P. Diddy beat the shit out of his girlfriend. I just see a camera of it, you know? And so now I'm like, okay, cool. The theatrics are worthy of Shakespeare. King Lear? 12th Night? I don't know. I think it's... Oh my god, anyways. And I think they have planned all this. I think they planned the Super Bowls. I think they planned the politics. I think they blackmail each other with underage hookers and children. I think they sell each other's countries. I think they sell information to each other. I think Palantir is just as evil as Sauron in Lord of the Rings. I see no difference between Sauron and the company Palantir. They have the all-seeing prism eye. You know, Promise, Promis. They have the NSA Prison Project, and they have for 14 years. And since Operation Ivy, we've been one world government. Like Daddy Bush said. And this is where I start to sound like those people that you hear on the 4chan boards, and you know, your uncle that never did get a job again after JFK got shot, or your uncle that never did get a job again after 9/11 or something. I start to sound like one of those people that's just sort of snapped, and until they get their closure, they can't heal. But I kind of want some convictions for JFK. I kind of want some convictions for MLK. I mean, Coretta Scott King sued the FBI and won. That's the conviction in the right direction. It would when the FBI lost the case, it would indicate that the government did kill MLK when Coretta won her fucking court case, you know? I want some answers to 9/11. I want some answers to COVID. And the closure hasn't happened yet. I think rather than give us closure on the actual things that have ripped and torn this country asunder, I think we wheel out Donald Trump for a show trial, fall of Rome type insurrectionist, King Lear, whatever, you know, Shakespearean drama, whatever dramedy that you prefer. And I dislike that it feels like theatrics. I dislike that I don't believe most of it. I dislike that I feel much more. What's the word? Cynical, but it's not. It's not cynical because I believe in love, and I believe in the future. When I'm in love, I believe in God. I like whatever. It's like I'm a glass. Okay, the glass is half full. The glass is half full. It might be half full of piss or vodka, but it's still half full. And you know, the glass is half full. It's piss. This is the part that they never tell you about the glass is half full. Is this the glass is half full of piss, right? But I'm not cynical. I don't want to believe these things that I believe. I'm just going with my fucking instincts. I don't have any like court cases or precedents, or I don't have Jack Ruby's confession. I don't have, you know, I don't have Lee Harvey Oswald. I don't have, you know, I don't have whoever set those C4. Sorry, the thermite. I don't have whoever crashed those planes. I don't have, you know, it's like the criminals weren't prosecuted, and it seems like the one guy who didn't actually pull a trigger, didn't actually, well, let's hope he didn't rape anybody, but boy, a lot of people did say that he raped them. Let's hope that he never hurt anybody, you know. And I look at a man who never fired a shot, never served, never had time in the military, never held public office or any of this other stuff. Somebody who literally pushed paper his whole fucking life. Now they level 34 fucking felonies at his ass, and I've been calling for his downfall like everybody the fuck else for like fucking 2.5 years and shit. I can't believe what he did to this country. But I don't know why a paper pusher should face the sort of criminal John Gotti bullshit that John Gotti faced. He's a paper, I mean, you look at Trump, he's a slumlord paper pusher. I don't see, I mean, they say he's a rapist. I don't know. They say some people burned alive in Trump Tower because he wouldn't put sprinklers in. They say that there's like serious primal things that he did that he must atone for. But I mean, like, this is a man who probably in the end was signing signatures like that veritable fat cat up in the fucking office, you know, like it's that big old desk, and it's the big old fat man who never leaves the chair, who's just constantly bureaucratically stealing from everybody all the time. And I don't know why 34 felonies should fall on a man who's never even gangbanged any before. You know what I'm saying? And I come from the streets, so like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've a lot of friends go to fucking jail for a lot less than this. And I gotta say, for you're hitting him with like motherfucking full-blown kingpin charges on somebody who's essentially a paper pusher, and from, you know, like TBP used to say, like, cops from the criminal's point of view or whatever. Here's the criminal's point of view on this. As far as criminality goes, this guy, 34 fucking felonies and shit, I still couldn't see more than 6 months in jail in a minimum security prison. And I'm sorry, but I don't know why it's not a law in this country. If you've been convicted of anything in this country, I'm talking even a goddamn, even a fucking jaywalking ticket, I don't really believe you should be able to hold public office. Because that's sort of like, well, yeah, we forgive people for, like the Bible say or whatever, or God says, we forgive us those our trespasses and all this. But I don't really know why a paper pusher who never really hurt anybody, I don't think, he stole from taxpayers and such. But I don't know, you line up 34 felonies like he's John Gotti and he's got bodies on him or something like that. And yeah, he's a paper trail pusher guy. He's committed a lot of felonies, but as far as criminals go, like the paper pushers, I kind of understand them. They're the people who didn't go down to the corner and start slinging crack in motherfucking black tar on west side of motherfucking Denver like I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, not crack, but anyways, I think of it as crack, but speed or whatever. And it's like, you look at the paper pusher and you see somebody who comes home to his wife and his kids at night, and he doesn't have a living room full of gangbangers, and he doesn't call up his kingpin for his hook or anything like that. He probably calls his lawyer, which to me is basically the same thing. But these aren't criminals with guns and drugs and, you know, holding up like you know what I think of when I think of criminality that deserves like 40 felonies? I think of Frank Wright in that movie American Gangster, when he takes over Harlem and pushes crack in the fucking ghetto with the fucking, or sorry, well, wasn't it black tar heroin? I think it was. You know, and he was using army jets to bring in the product from fucking the Viet Cong, and they eventually storm his ass in like I think it was like 79 or 84 or something like that, up there in the fucking in the fucking project towers and shit, and they got all these naked women with you know, with like nothing but a fucking mask on so they don't breathe the drug dust and die, you know, and like and so they can't hide or steal from the kingpins and shit. Those are people that I could see. And then, and if you remember, in Frank Wright's case, they shot up the projects with the FBI SWAT. I mean, there was a huge, horrible fucking fight up there in the projects and shit when they finally did bust Frank Wright and they come after him and shit. Who was that? That was Denzel Washington. Those are guys who deserve 30 or 40 felonies. I look at a paper pusher like Trump, and I think, yeah, bust him for 30 felonies, but give him 6 months a minimum, because these guys, they go home to their fucking kids and their husbands and wives at night. They take care of shit, they pay their taxes, or they cheat the taxes, one or the other, but they generally pay the taxes. They don't, trust me, if they paid zero, trust me, the government would put them in jail immediately. They're paying some taxes, they're just lying about it when they do. So like, even then, they still represent a better class of criminal to me than the people that I saw on the west side of Denver. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, like, sure, hit him for 30 fucking felonies, disgrace his ass, and make it so nobody ever who's ever been convicted of anything in this fucking country could ever hold office here, because I believe that is the standard you could hold for public office. And this is, was a career criminal, essentially. Like, you know, I wasn't for a long time. I was a taxi driver for 13 years, but it went kind of hand in hand with crime. And like most of the time, like I was in some illegal state, like I was high, or I was running shit, or I was with people, or I was helping somebody run shit, or doing something. And like, you know, and that to me is actual criminality. This guy, he stamps a rubber thing on his, he signs some letter that his fucking lawyer brings him, and then he goes on to his fucking golf course in Mar-a-Lago and shit like this, or whatever this fucking, you know, shit. And so we must reform the legal system now with an eye towards what damage is actually caused by the crimes that are out there. Because I hear all the time about murderers who skate on a goddamn technicality, or rapists who skates on a goddamn technicality. And then motherfuckers like this, you want to tell me at least half this country believed that he couldn't skate totally free today. I guarantee at least half this country, and probably about the other half of us on the left, you know, ultra left-wing liberal side, we all probably deep in our hearts believed that he would just skate on all 35 charges or whatever, right? So like, half of us probably believe that he could just skate on these charges today. That indicates a serious fucking problem with our legal system. And I'm not a law and order guy. I mean, you know, I'm a BLM, I can't breathe type guy, but like, you know, but we do need policing in this community. And when you look at how much rape and murder, Uvalde, fucking Texas, and Sandy Hook, and goddamn, you know, all the Columbines and the fucking, you know, Century 16s that I lived through. Just down the road from me was Century 16 and fucking right down I-25 to motherfucking, you know, what's it called, Bellevue, and then right down the road from there was Chuck E. Cheese, where that dude shot up the Chuck E. Cheese where all those kids were there. And then right down the road from there was Columbine. And so, you know, come up looking at like real criminality. This isn't it. Give him his show trial. Make him do minimum security for like 3. Give him 6 months and then make him serve 3. But I don't want our paper pushers in the same jail as our, you know, thugged up, committed, 1%er fucking gang members and, you know, fucking, bikers and, you know, gang members and shit, and MS-13 or what, all those fucking gangs and all this shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that putting them in jail is the solution at all. I'm saying the reform needs to happen where, like, the laws, they seem ultra punitive for something that.
That event is going to be full TV, so you're going to go in still?
I'm just gonna stop. I think I've started to sort of blather.
RSVP.
People are standing around here waiting for something, and I don't really understand what they want. He's left the courthouse now, and they seem to think something's going to happen, which also makes me nervous. Like, I think the Democrats thought that bringing a head home on a pike and planting it on their fucking front lawn was going to solve all of our fucking problems. I don't think so. I don't think this head on a pike is going to solve all the fucking problems. I think we needed to worry about education like 20 years ago and pollution and stuff. I think we needed to worry a bit more about ourselves and less about others. And I know that sounds selfish, but I mean, we're Americans. I think that's something that a lot of the world would say about us, is we are sort of young and selfish. We're America's child. I would say we're the world's child. I would say we're teenagers. Like all of the other countries in the world have been around for 20, 30,000 years longer. We've been around for what, 300? So we're like the world's child, and we've got these growing pains. I think of us as like, what was the girl's name from that show, Roseanne? Can't remember. Something Connor. Sarah was the older sister, kind of, but like Denise or Deidre or something like that. D name, something like that. I think of America as one of those teenage girls on that show, Roseanne, because we just don't know. We haven't been here long enough. We don't have a Margaret Thatcher to tell us what to. We don't have an old Ironside to tell us what the fuck to do without actually swinging some guns or committing an insurrection. You know. And this is because we haven't been around long enough. We're like teenagers in the world stage. And the whole world is watching us. It's so weird. It's like we're the, you know, it was like in World War I, we were like, you know, the Olsen twins in Full House. World War II, we were like Arnold, what's his name, from the Wonder Years, right? And then by World War III, we're like the Connor kids from Roseanne. We're like a little older, but it's only been 300 fucking years or something like that, and we've had to age so much so fast, and all the world looks to us. And I mean, it reminds me of that character Tweak from South Park, man. It's too much, man. Or goddamn it, every time I think of her, I start to cry. But Sarah from BoJack Horseman, Sarah, you know, fucking Sarah from BoJack Horseman. She was my favorite character. And they killed her too. BoJack Horseman, Sarah Lynn, right? Like, so now we're like Sarah Lynn. We're like maybe 22, and we put powder cocaine in our walls to hide it from how bad we have a habit, and we're like, you know, we're drunk and we're crazy, and we jet set the world, and we kibitz with everybody. We kibitz with Israel. We kibitz with Palestine. We kibitz with Russia and China, Op Ivy and all this other stuff, and I see teenagers milling about while they absorb this information. I think an adult would go on about their fucking day. Like I did. Like I wanted to cry after this because I was like, God damn it, man. Like I know at least 30 people who will be crushed by this. Just full-blown crushed. Like my first thought was about them. I don't give a flying fuck about some crucifixion on the fucking cross. You can have your death of Jesus or whatever the fuck. It didn't kill the message of the love. Do you hear him say it? I would like to enjoy this summer without experiencing any critical injuries.
Walk around with a limp because someone beat him.
Yeah. This is a man espousing fear of being beaten half to death in public for being a leftist. You can hear it bleeding through on the AP live stream, what the people in the press are talking about, because there's nothing else going on. It's goddamn disgusting, really. Well, so what happens now? That takes Trump out of the running. Who are the Republican front runners 2024? So the GOP presidential candidates into 3 categories. That's not too good for a single party, huh? Okay. We have the contenders, which is Chris Christie, who has dropped out, Ron DeSantis, who has dropped out, Nikki Haley, who has dropped out, Mike Pence, who dropped out, Vivek Ramaswamy, who dropped out, Tim Scott, who dropped out, and Ted Cruz was ruled out. Yeah, he's still better than motherfucking Ben Carson. The long shots, not a factor, at least not yet. Kristi Noem passed on a presidential bid, but has been mentioned as a prospective Trump running mate. Ryan Binkley dropped out. Doug Burgum dropped out. Larry Elder dropped out. Will Hurd, Asa Hutchinson, Perry Johnson. So we're looking at the death of the Republican Party, maybe? If the election is... I mean, the primary is coming up in New Hampshire, and
Kristen? He's leaving.
yeah, the guy. Okay, just as I said, Chris Christie, so did the guy in the in the AP press. He said the same thing. Chris Christie left. He said it as I said it. Jesus Christ, man! Sometimes I think I should be down there. Did you guys ever see? I recently did a deep dive on Robert Downey Jr. because I heard my mother told me this story about some fucking person called him or something. And he was like drunk and on cocaine, 7 gram rocks era, and told him that he got Iron Man, and so he sobered up, and then he became like one of the world's best actors and all this, and total comeback story, Cinderella Man shit, you know. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, my favorite role that Robert Downey Jr. ever played was the Zodiac. He played, God damn it, what's the name of the journalist? He was really good as the journalist, too. It was the Zodiac cast. It was Robert Downey Jr. played Paul Avery. I loved that movie, Zodiac. Despite how dark it was, I thought of all the serial killer movies, I thought the Zodiac was the one that they really tried to keep really clean and classy and good. Like Summer of Sam was really good, but I still felt that it kind of descended into a bit of pop idol stuff. I felt that, the Zodiac kept it clean. And so Paul Avery, so Robert Downey Jr. plays Paul Avery, and I thought, I don't really see the difference between Hunter S. Thompson or Paul Avery and me. I don't, I believe they had the same interests, same politics, same drugs, same women, same alcohol, same everything. And, Chloe Sevigny was in this as Melanie. I totally fucking forgot about that. That's right. They have a date. And he's like, I might have to go catch the Zodiac Killer right now. And she's like, is this a put on? Do you normally do this on your first date? And he's like, no, I'm actually chasing the Zodiac Killer. And she's like, oh, okay, well, here's 50 cents. Go make your phone call. I actually really loved that scene. God damn it. Chloe Sevigny. Kids. One of the greatest fucking films ever made. An actual look at the rave scene in New York. Or not the rave scene, just, the party scene. Like Party Monster. Really invaluable inside look. Kids was a monumental film. I remember it changed every person that I knew. I've got no legs. I've got no legs. I've got no legs. Kids really hit us pretty hard. Chloe Sevigny, what else did she do? Everything she touched was she's like the Queen Midas. Everything she touched turned to gold. and she stayed underground pretty much almost the entirety. She did music videos for Sonic Youth, as I recall. She stands in as Macaulay Culkin's wife, and Sonic Youth did a video off of oh god, Dirty, I think. And I think she played, she marries Macaulay Culkin in that film instead of Macaulay's actual wife. I can't remember her name, but Chloe Sevigny, right? American Psycho was so good. Demon Lover, Party Monster is my favorite of hers, I think. Dogville. If you just push hard outwards, yeah. Oh no, that's okay, it's not your fault. Trees Lounge, The Brown Bunny. She was in Big Love, which I haven't seen, and then Zodiac and Mr. Nice. She was in Portlandia. Oh yeah, and then my other favorite role of hers was American Horror Story Hotel. She was so good in that. Her fucking kid is kidnapped and she goes fucking crazy. Well, it appears that the AP press is not going anywhere. We sat here and listened to it for, I mean, how long have I been doing this? 35 minutes or something like that. Let's see what the comments are saying. Laughing at MAGA tears. He should have been jailed immediately. You're laughing at MAGA tears. I'm crying at how New York weaponized our justice systems to affect an election. Justice for New York. Today is a great day. It's official. Dawn is a con. America's is now great. America is now great. 202 felonies. This guy says another 51 coming. This guy says justice system has failed. This guy says it's God's will. Lawfare. Lawfare. Jesus Christ, I've never heard that before. Lawfare. Don the con, Don the con, Don the con. Laughing at MAGA tears. GOP, 34 convictions. Lock him up. Lock him up. Stinky Pants Trump. Oh my god. Jesus hates MAGA? What? Lock up Van Taku, whatever that means. Let's go, Brandon. Trump's karma for January 6th. Definitely January 6th. Lock him up, lock him up. Oh my god. Look at them all engage in the tribalists. It's like they have a football team. And, you know, the Saints lost. And now the Pats are running slipshod all over everybody. And, you know, their team lost. And now, you know the bars are going to be doing some good business tonight. Guilty AF, guilty AF, guilty AF, guilty AF, all these different people. Guilty AF, guilty AF. Oh my god. Guilty AF, FJB. Trump the Chomp. Best jury ever, let the MAGA something. This scrolling so fast I can't read it. Lock him up, 34, 34. Oh my god. Lock Benedict Donald up. Oh my god. Listen to the cringe. Wait, Trump has homies in prison from the insurrection. Homie the clown. Oh no. He was guilty before the trial started. What a sham. Some of this audio seems off. Which video is it coming from? Reminder that they've been going through after this guy for 8 years. They could only catch him on hush money payments, which they falsely elevated to a felony. Will be easily appealed. That one sounds a little bit more too close to for comfort. That's what probably will happen, honestly. Biden will send over a bag of Cheetos. Jail the con, he needs it. Diaper Donnie toilet wine. Oh my god. Diaper Donnie toilet wine. Oh my god. R.I.P. Joe Rogan. Why do you keep saying that? Israel save Trump. Israel save Trump. Oh my god. Worst day of my life. I think it probably is. Best jury ever. Let the MAGA tears flow. Diaper Dawn. Hashtag Diaper Dawn. Best jury ever, let the MAGA tears flow. What a big shame of America. A former president something. Former president what? I saw some maggots saying they will end themselves. Please don't do it for this. Come back home. He was so guilty, like many of the other indictments he already has, and more to come. He's not above the law. I mean, it's true. He's not. None of us are. I don't like this element of the fucking humans around me to laugh at other people's goddamn sorrow. It's something that I really think differentiates me from pretty much the entirety of the fucking human race. There's a few of us who aren't like that. Like, overall, man, like, it seems like most of these people are looking for tears to farm all day, every day. That's like their job in life now. Farming tears. Best jury ever, let the MAGA tears flow. Now they're all saying it. Best jury ever, let the MAGA tears flow. All fucking 3,000 of these people are now saying it. R.I.P. Joe Rogan. What does that mean? Why do they keep saying R.I.P. Joe Rogan? What does that mean? Did Joe Rogan die or something? What does R.I.P. Joe Rogan even mean? What does that mean? I'm so disconnected from what's everything's going on. Oh, thank you, Crystal. No, you're totally good. I just didn't want you going without a thank you. It's good. Trash. Yeah. Thank you so much. This place looks wonderful. He didn't die of cringe, he died with cringe. So they say this, I think, because he said that Trump would be innocent, is what they're saying. I don't want to watch AP anymore. They're not doing anything, and all these comments are getting dumber by the second, so we'll just get off this now. Alright, well, let's go see what the fuck else in the world is going on here. The internet finally found the back rooms. This man will change the world. Live, Trump convicted of all 34 counts. Let's see what CBS says.
With intent to cover up a crime that voters really didn't.
Thank you, CBS News, for the extra content from the stream. I'd like to sub to your channel. Thank you, AP News, for the extra content from the stream. I'd like to sub to your channel.
And is that going to affect those polls?
Well, it's an excellent question. And fortunately, we have Nicole Killian, who is out on the campaign trail. She's in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. She's been talking to voters. And
so the next natural question is if they've been decapitated, who becomes the head Hydra now? Because it's like there's no one, and that's not good. That scares me more than him being innocent. Honestly, is that with him gone? I mean, that's like a vacuum. And I mean, whatever. I got plenty of Democrats in my life or whatever, but I am not a Democrat, not really. So, like, I don't really want full Democrat rule over this country. I don't really want that. I believe in like 6 or 7 different views in this country. I believe in low, medium, and high levels of left. I believe in low, medium, and high levels of medium. And I believe in low, medium, and high levels of right. And I think that we literally need like 9 parties and all this. And I don't know where I'm on the rightest leaning of left, because I'm ultra leftist liberal. But I believe in guns, and I'm anti-abortion, but I'm pro-choice, so I fall center on that, where it's like, yeah, I can't make up my mind, I don't like abortion, but I'm pro-fucking-choice, you know, way more pro-choice than anti-abortion. So, but I think you can be both. That's something that neither side seems to want to admit, but I think you can be both, and that's not my issue either. It's a woman's issue, same as these politics aren't my issue either. I'm not a politician, I'm not a woman, they're not my things. I don't live in those worlds. I have no fucking idea what it's like to birth a child. I have no fucking idea what it's like to birth a fucking 50-year congressman who does nothing all day. But
did talk to some Democratic voters, some Republican voters.
Yeah, like, so I fall kind of ultra left-wing liberal and pro-gun rights, but I'm also pro-gun control. And I'm anti-abortion, but I'm pro-choice, and I'm pro-death penalty, but anti-fucking, like, the system. And so, yeah, what is that? That's pretty much dead center. And I'm ultra leftist in the reality that, like, I would like all drugs to be legalized. I would like maybe no foreign wars ever, or we prosecute our politicians trying to take us there, kind of thing. That kind of. And so now, like, I think we need 9 parties, and I guess while a vacuum is not good, because we'll probably have democratic rule for like 20 years. But I think the balance that we had was better than this. You know? Spoken like somebody who doesn't like either party. So I was happier with the balance, you know?
Of course, many Democrats tell us that they believe the former president should have been convicted, but many Republican voters that we talk to feel that the system is broken, that this was just a political trial and a political decision.
This was not a political trial. They fucked him on 34 felonies, a goddamn fucking straight lying on his court documents and all this.
That being said,
court documents, but contracts.
One Republican voter I spoke to in particular is still wavering to a certain extent in terms of his vote. This is somebody who supported the former president back in
sentencing is scheduled for July 11th. That's an actual pertinent piece of information that we finally saw something pertinent now. Trump convicted on all 34. Trump calls trial rigged and disgraceful.
2016 and 2020, but is not sure
Those are
whether
the bullet point takeaways for that.
He will support the former president going forward. Nora?
That is really interesting, Nicole. Thank you so much for your reporting there. It has been a historic day here in America. The first ever criminal trial of a president ends in conviction. Former President Donald J. Trump convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree related to those hush money payments. Each of the 34 felony counts is punishable by up to 4 years in prison.
4 years in
prison. But it is up to the judge to sentence Trump to jail, prison, home confinement, probation, or a fine. And we will learn the former president's sentence on July 11th. That is just 4 days.
Falsifying business records. Yeah, that's lying on contracts, isn't it? It would be like if you were like, yeah, I'm going to give you this, and then I just, turns out that I told you something was worth way more than it actually was. That's lying on contracts. That's pretty much, that's what it is. That's,
before the Republican National Convention.
I mean, that guy was right. They have been after him for 8 years.
Former president is a convicted felon, but that does not prevent him from running for office for another term.
I can't believe getting convicted of a felony in this country does not exclude you from running for office. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool. We do believe deep down in our hearts and souls that you can reform, apparently to the point where you can even become president, which is, I guess, heartening to me, I guess. I mean, I do have some possession charges and some theft charges and some fucking, what else is it? A lot of shoplifting, a lot of, petty theft stuff.
In the White House. And it is important also to note that he can't...
Not that I was a bad thief. I always stole when I was hungry.
...pardon himself if he does become president again, because this is a state crime. Once again, the breaking news, former President Donald Trump has been found guilty by a jury of 12.
They deliberated for 11 hours.
34 counts of falsifying business records.
I heard it on the car coming back from town.
Our coverage will continue on CBS News, 24/7 local news, and tonight
11 hours is an absolute 100%
Thank you to everyone that joined us.
I told it to my mother. I was like, I bet you he's guilty of all, because nobody comes back in 11 hours unless it's full-blown 100% guilty. If you're innocent, they'll deliberate for 3 months, something. Because the 3 people that believe in you have to fight the other 9 people to get
Hello, thank you for joining us. For the first time in the 237-year history of the American presidency, one of the 46 men who has served in that office is a convicted felon. After 2 days of deliberations, the jury in Donald Trump's criminal trial in New York City has unanimously found the former president and current likely Republican nominee guilty.
Why is he allowed to walk out of the courthouse? Because he never wielded a gun when he robbed people? Is that why? Why is he allowed to just walk out of the courthouse?
34 counts of falsifying business records. Mr. Trump spoke outside the courthouse.
I'm rich, so I'm going to walk out of the building now. Because I'm rich, they just They just don't stop me.
By a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue.
Trust me, if I came up on 34 falsifying fucking documents charges and stuff, and I tried to leave the building, I would have to have $1 billion, right? But I mean, yeah, but if I didn't have $1 billion, trust me, there's gonna be a lot of men with guns standing between me and walking out that front door, or even getting out of the courtroom, really. But this man has $1 billion, so they're just like, oh, cool, yeah, you just see ya, bye. Yeah, you just walk out, 34 felonies, just walk on out that front door, no problem. Hey, how many jets do you own? Is it 17? Which one of them are you going to take off to some unknown place and disappear forever in, huh? This is seriously how I think of it. Like, God damn it, like, man, 34 felonies, and you're walking out of that room? You're walking out of that room? I mean, was he really convicted of anything if he's walking out of that room?
In this district, in this area, this was a rigged, disgraceful trial.
I think it is a rigged, disgraceful trial, in the fact that you walked out the fucking courtroom after it. After you were convicted of 34 felonies, I think it is a disgrace of a trial. I think it is. Why are you allowed to walk free? I wouldn't be able to.
The real verdict is going to be...
I'm sick of your war on the poor and your fucking your pedestal for the rich, you know. Eat
November
the rich,
5th
feed
by
the
the
poor
people.
until there's no more poor no more.
And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Before we begin breaking down the verdict, we want to remind viewers how we got here in the first place.
Yeah,
prosecutors allege, and the jury believed, that the former president, his then attorney Michael Cohen, and National Enquirer publisher David Pecker met at Trump Tower in 2015. They claim the three discussed how to conceal negative stories about Trump in order to get him elected. In October 2016, Cohen and an attorney for adult film actress Stormy Daniels negotiated a $130,000 deal to keep her quiet about an alleged sexual encounter with Trump in 2006.
So do you think about your daughter when you're cheating on your wife?
Trump, the jury believed, reimbursed Cohen for the pay.
Just, I just wonder if that's what the women of this country are asking themselves, sort of. Like,
payment, claiming it was...
I know my mother has asked me that a couple of times.
...for legal fees. That was the criminal issue at the center of this case. For more, let's bring in Errol Barnett and Katrina Kaufman outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan.
Cheating on your wife with the porn star?
Errol is CBS News national correspondent, and Katrina is a CBS News campaign reporter and attorney. Katrina, you've been in the courtroom throughout this trial. Tell us what it was like when the verdict was read.
It was like gobsmacking.
So I was sitting in the courtroom.
People started cheering.
On one of the end of one of the rows. When
it's like when the Patriots win the Super Bowl. Trump got fucking slam dunked or whatever. Woo! And the fucking jury goes wild. The jury goes wild.
It was read.
Oh my
watching
God.
The jury,
it is like watching a football
watching
game.
Trump. He was just looking straight ahead, very stone-faced. His eyes were so squinted, I honestly couldn't even tell.
Oh yeah. I am stiff. Lifted a very heavy box.
Oh, you done this just a second.
Stiff from walking too much.
Oh yeah. In there. Come on. Okay. Get that spot there.
Sorry about that, guys. Had to go get some ice. All right, let's let the debacle continue.
If they were open for some of the time, but the foreman read that he was guilty on all counts, and then the judge goes and confirms with each juror that they concur with that verdict. And so Trump looked at those jurors one by one as they affirmed that they were finding him guilty on all 34 counts in this case.
She's
and
also
then
in shock.
When it came to leave the room, Trump got up, turned around, and he and his son Eric, who'd been sitting slightly behind him, had a quick handshake.
All the time. I feel like Barbara Leahy's sitting up in my motherfucking trailer park watching the trailer park of America burn down.
Eric had also just been sitting there
like all the time,
looking at the jury, looking ahead at his father.
I was like watching. I'm like, yeah, please no war, please no war. Like, as I've said on my stream almost every day for the last couple of weeks, please no war, right? Because remember, guys, you might want war. You might think that you want civil war or something like that. You might want to fight some old grievances or whatever. But what is war? We've said it every day for like a week and a half on the stream. War is when they take planes and drop bombs on your mother's house. There's no guns or you a sniper rifle like COD or, Halo shooting some dude across the street or something in your Americanized warfare like Grand Theft Auto 5 or something like that. No, it's bombs on your mother's house while you all watch the news. Do not wish for war. All it is, remember, and if you don't believe me, go look at every bit of war footage from World War I to World War II, and all you're going to see is planes dropping bombs on people's mother's houses. And this is why we don't want war. We don't want civil war. We don't want this man taking us to that place. War is bad, children. To quote the great John Lennon and Yoko Ono, war is over if you want it.
And when he walked out of the
you
room,
do not
he
want
passed
it.
right
you
by
might
me
say,
with,
"Oh, fuck the leftists. We got to go fight them in the
his
streets or
face,
something.
followed
Blood
by his
will
attorney,
flow with the
Todd
streets of the
Blanche, who just
non-believers.
looked
Blood for the blood god,
equally
etc." Right?
morose, and his
No.
son and the rest
Because
of
what
his
it really
team
will be
trailing behind
is
him.
Katrina,
you
was
or
there
me
any,
dropping bombs on each other's mother's houses.
Response
that's
from
actually what
either
war
the
is.
peanut
We don't want
gallery
it.
or the prosecutors or the anybody.
We don't think it's cool. We don't fucking glorify it. We don't think it's guns because it's not. It's AC-130 gunships, drones, missiles, and bombs on your mother's house. And so no war, no civil war. He obviously divided us as he left, but he did not, we don't need to take it to that place. No war, no war, no war.
Audible response. He just really, honestly...
No bombs on our mother's houses, You might think that you can go fight Johnny China or Johnny fucking Russia or Johnny Israel or Johnny Palestine. No. It's just bombs on Johnny Palestine's mom's house. That's all it is. Fuck war. We don't want it. Don't be pushing some pro-war thing.
Sat there just looking so morose, looking straight ahead, almost.
I like hitting the people with a motherfucking reality. It's the kind of speech I would use to try and become president, unlike this deadbeat who never held public office or whatever. I'd say, yeah, oh yeah, you really want to go over there, do you? No. Oh yeah, so you want them to drop bombs on our mother's houses, do you? Yeah. No foreign wars. Ever.
Though he was trying to block out what was going on, but also hearing it at the same time. But there was very little reaction that I could see. I did see Eric. I was watching him as the charges were being...
I know I sound like motherfucking Patsy and, oh, god damn it, AbFab. I know I sound like AbFab all the time. I've watched way too much Absolutely Fabulous. Absolutely Fabulous. AbFab. It's like my favorite show of all time almost. Oh, you dirty bitch. It's French and Saunders. It's Don French and Jennifer Saunders. And they play Adina Monsoon and Patsy Stone in the greatest television show of all time, Absolutely Fabulous. It was on PBS for 25 years. You probably saw it and didn't know what it was. But I fucking love that show, and there was only like 2 seasons or something like that. But I know every time I talk, I sound like Adina Monsoon. I really wish I didn't, but I do. I know that I sound like my mother, and I know I sound like Adina Monsoon. I mean, I hate it, but I mean...
Read, and the foreman was saying that he was guilty on the counts. He started shaking his head no slightly as he was looking ahead at his dad.
Errol, this is the first conviction of an American president.
Does Patsy eat? Oh, no. She drinks, darling. She drinks.
President who has created...
She doesn't eat. She just drinks.
extraordinary swirl everywhere he goes. And who has some...
I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault.
It is my fault. It's my giant television.
No,
I'm so sorry.
I smack my head into everything when I clean.
Yeah, all right. Me too.
Durable and diehard supporters. So with that kind of setup, what was the move?
It happens all the time.
I'm
Things that hurt
sorry.
a lot more, so it's all good.
Well, if there wasn't a giant television, it wouldn't be happening.
Like outside?
God, I love my giant television.
It is pretty
it harms people, and I still love it, like a errant child, like it's like a terrible child that you have or something. I love it anyways. It's such a giant television.
He's also
it just harmed a friend of mine, and I still love it despite it being a terrible thing.
This is taking place in a city where people like to go about their business even when extraordinary things are happening all right around them.
Yeah, John, that's certainly evident now. What's interesting is when it was clear that there was a verdict, there was a sense, a palpable sense out here of some type of excitement. You have pro-Trump supporters who've been showing up outside the courthouse for many weeks, and also anti-Trump protesters. What we witnessed after we reported that Trump was guilty on all 34 felony counts is that you had a few dozen pro and anti-Trump protesters here in the streets behind us, as well as a healthy mix of just regular New Yorkers who some were gathering to head towards Trump's motorcade before it left the courthouse. So after the verdict was read, after Trump passed Katrina, Trump was inside the courthouse for a good 30 minutes and then was seen assembling on his motorcade before departing the courthouse, and he was welcomed both by pro-Trump supporters who had lined the streets and anti-Trump demonstrators. Some of those anti-Trump demonstrators you might hear behind us who were chanting on each count, guilty and guilty. And we should also note that one aspect that added to the mood both inside and outside the courthouse was just how relatively quickly these 12 jurors decided unanimously that Donald Trump was guilty. Yesterday it was only roughly 4 hours of deliberation before they sent back a note requesting more guidance from Judge Mershon and more
they took 5 hours
specifically from David Pecker. This morning started with them getting that guidance from the judge, getting testimony from David Pecker read back to them, and that's significant because Cohen, of course, had credibility issues. The judge had said you should consider him an accomplice, and so you can't convict based on his testimony alone unless it is corroborated by other testimony and other evidence, and that's precisely what the jurors wanted to go back and examine after they got the additional testimony read to them this morning. So they seem to hone in on the Trump Tower meeting of 2015, the nexus of the scheme, and everything David Pecker said about it that lined up with Cohen's testimony before they returned this unanimous verdict. So relatively a fast decision by this 12-person jury who was made now, an historic decision.
And Katrina, we should know we have not, as far as I'm aware, heard anything from the jury, reminding that at least one person who was in the jury was concerned and left before this all started because of safety concerns. So we don't know whether we'll hear from the jury, though the judge, as I understand, has said they can talk. Katrina, you watched this whole thing. Were you surprised by the speed, by the outcome? Just what struck you in terms of the argument that that Arrow was making there? And it sounds like the police are doing a little crowd control behind you. What surprised you about this, Katrina?
I mean, I was absolutely surprised by the speed. I guess to set the scene a little bit more for you, we actually had thought that we were done for the day. The judge brought us all into the courtroom, had said that he was going to release the jury at 4:30, and he was just going to step out for a few minutes. And so we were all waiting, thinking that there was going to be a whole other day of deliberation. But when the judge returned, he said he had gotten a note from the jury. They had their verdict, and they just wanted 30 more minutes to fill out the verdict sheet. So I honestly thought that we were probably going to have another day.
I mean, I kept telling him since the day he fucking since the day January 6th happened, I kept telling him, you understand, right, that there's 200 felonies on the docket. He's going to jail. It's just a matter of time. And they were like, you're full of shit, libtard. Shut the fuck up. Your fantasy is so far from reality that you sound like a crazy person from 4chan and all this. I got this from WoW players and stuff. But nope, every last thing that I said would happen absolutely happened. And it's weird because I believe I was the only one saying this. My mother told me to say this, so I did say it. Like, she was like, they'll get him in the end. He's guilty of 200 felonies. He's going to prison. It's only a matter of time. And I was like, that's really what the takeaway is? And she's like, yes, I'm certain of it as I live and breathe. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to say. And even back before I was a streamer, that's what I said. I was like, yep, sure, my mother tells me what to think politically because this is about the only news I ever do is when something big happens, I avoid it otherwise. It's too negative.
Yes, but this jury has clearly taken the case very seriously. They are always extremely attentive. They are taking lots of notes. This was actually to an alternate, but the judge noted that he saw one of them go through 3 different notebooks during this trial. And to what Errol was saying earlier, they wanted a number of pieces of testimony read back, and they also wanted to hear a part of the jury instruction. It was a significant amount of pages, but they referenced one part specifically, and it was about inference, and they wanted to hear about something related to rain that the judge had written, and it essentially said that, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you see that it's wet outside and you see umbrellas, you can deduce that it rained during the night, and that was something they could apply in this case, that if all of the facts surrounding something led to a certain conclusion, that you could deduce that conclusion if it seemed rational and reasonable. And I think given the many pieces that the jury had to tie together in this case, that was very significant that they wanted to hone in on that detail.
And just quickly on that point, Katrina, that is a legal principle that exists in the law. In other words, you're allowed to use your own reason. You don't need to have videotaped evidence of the crime as alleged. If your reason and the facts leads you to a conclusion, that's not some crazy new route in the law. That's something one would be taught in law school.
Absolutely not. Yes, that is inference. It's just, I think the way that he described it was very palpable for them to understand. And obviously the jury instructions are all about telling them how to apply the law to the facts of this very complicated case. It was a very layered legal charge that they had to comprehend and wrap their minds around. But I think being in that room, the prosecution put on an extremely strong case. And we've talked about it before, but watching the progression of the witnesses and the way it came together was honestly almost like watching a puzzle come together very tightly by the end. And I think they did a really good job of weaving together this narrative, of finding so much documentation, all of the text messages, the emails, the audio recordings. That was another actually interesting part of this morning, is the jury requested headphones, and they ended up either giving them both speakers and headphones, and there were some audio materials in this. One of them was the secret recording that Michael Cohen had made of Donald Trump when they seemed to be talking about the Karen McDougal deal. And we don't know exactly why they wanted it, but it did strike me that when Joshua Steinglass for the prosecution gave his closing argument, there was some debate over whether you could actually hear Trump say the word 150 on the tape. And what 150 means is that's the amount that Karen McDougal was paid for her story. And the prosecution said it indicated that he had knowledge of the fact that they were paying her, of the amount. And he said to the jury, you can get this recording. You can have it in the jury room. I encourage you to play it as loud as you want, as many times as you want. And I promise you that you will hear 150 if you do that. And so when they asked for speakers and headphones, I wondered if that might be what they were doing in there.
Right. That's the September 2016 taped meeting about McDougal, which is not Stormy Daniels, but creates this evidence pattern that the former president was quite concerned about this set of issues and set him on the path to what ultimately happened with Daniels. Errol, let me ask you this question. Safety, I mentioned it before. What's the posture around there right now, and what concerns do officials have about either the safety with respect to the jurors or just in response to this verdict?
Well, it was evident that the NYPD, which is used to, conducting high-profile cases and allowing a busy place like New York to keep operating while protecting everyone who is involved, including the media, it was noteworthy that for today and yesterday, they actually cleared the street behind us, which on the right you'll see the courthouse, on the left is where the media, most of the media is assembled. They cleared it of all parked vehicles for today and yesterday, whereas for the past 6 weeks, people could park their cars as they wish. They wouldn't allow people along the street behind us to stop walking. You could walk if you had business in the court or if you needed to get somewhere, but onlookers who would stop and take pictures and take video and just watch would be ushered along. Let's not forget that just a few weeks ago, the public park directly across from the courthouse had an incident where a man set himself on fire and he ended up passing away that following weekend, but the park had remained open to the public as an example of the NYPD's efforts to allow the city to operate as possible and to have the smallest footprint as possible. But also, as I think we mentioned, this group behind us, which has been growing in the past hour hour or so, some of them did rush down to where Trump's motorcade was about to exit. Then we saw about half a dozen NYPD trucks and SUVs line the street as well as kind of a show of force. So the NYPD, it would seem, has kind of successfully allowed this trial to take place. Plenty of other trials and proceedings are taking place at the same time, despite the fact that we've had a former president with full Secret Service protection in and out of this building each day these past 6 weeks or so.
History takes place, and the people walk on.
I've got to wash my hands. I've been working in the
courthouse for us. Thank you
garden.
very much. CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett joins
I'm sorry, guys.
us now
I did
from DC.
I did about an hour of work, like moving soil and moving heavy fucking boxes with like stuff for a greenhouse and stuff. And my hands are filthy. And I totally spaced it.
Major, I believe you and I were talking. I believe you were down in Mar-a-Lago. It's hard to keep up with all of the indictments, but after the former president was indicted in this case, he made a bit of a meal of it, as I recall.
Yes.
Take that moment in time and to where we are today right now, and give me your impressions, having covered this man for so long.
So, at Mar-a-Lago, we spoke because the former president was throwing the first of its kind, an indictment party, essentially, rallying those around him to what he said at the time was an unjust process that was out to get him, and that he was beginning the process of identifying himself as a victim of the legal system. And many in the audience at Mar-a-Lago, quite predictably, were supportive of that. That was one moment. I also remember, John, because I covered the presidential campaign of Donald Trump extensively for about 16 months. And I remembered when he was a candidate, then when he was president, and stories or questions about this kind of conduct arose, whether it was any previous affair or was there ever an attempt to bury that information. All questions about that were met with hostile, forceful, aggressive denials. Those denials evaporated in the courthouse proceedings of the last 5.5 to 6 weeks. It had been proven, established, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that there was a process by which stories favorable were placed, unfavorable caught and killed. Now, whether the country believes that is a crime sufficient enough to render the former president now a convicted felon who faces prison time is a separate matter. My only point, John, is that the former president at Mar-a-Lago, when this conversation you and I are having just began this evening, was about how the system was unjust and all these things alleged were untrue and false. Many of those allegations...
Why do you have your fists in the air? At least it isn't the open hand.
...have now been proven to be true, and those aggressive denials did not withstand evidentiary scrutiny. And one of the things the country is going to begin to debate from this day forward, from this moment forward, John, is the absolute value of the terminology rigged. Because the former president says in every instance, every single instance, whether it's a civil case, whether it's about whether or not he sexually assaulted a woman in New York, or his business records in this case were fraudulent or not, every single case, January 6th, Fulton County, classified documents, in every instance, the entire system is arrayed against him and him alone.
Yes.
Well, now a jury of his peers has said, you know what, it's not arrayed against you. It's your conduct that brought all this into being in the first place. And there's a law that asks us whether or not that conduct is felonious or not. And 12 jurors said unanimously 34 times it is.
We just saw pictures there of the former president in front of Trump Tower, a building that is thoroughly associated with this city, as the former president has been for his entire life. Let me ask you this, Major, as the final question. Okay, there's a campaign going on, but give me your sense of some of the the effects that will happen from this. I mean, everything from there are people applying and auditioning to be his vice president. How will they react to this? And what incentives might they have to now talk about the jury system and what's rigged and what isn't rigged? How do you think this will ripple through the election?
In Republican precincts across this country, John, this will echo as what the former president describes it as. Something that should never have been brought, that is a miscarriage of justice, or to use the terminology of the sitting chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, a travesty or a shameful day in America, as the Speaker of the House of Representatives said in a statement this afternoon. That will resonate among Republicans. Many Democrats and maybe some independents might say to themselves, the system now is applying accountability. And if there's been anything constant from their vantage point about former President Trump, is his ability to dodge accountability and essentially say to the systems of our country, what are you going to do about it? And doing so with a kind of impunity that drove Democrats, certainly, and maybe some independents, to the point of distraction, if not worse. There will be partisan alignment, as there is almost everything in our political life in this country right now, John. But there will be some fair-minded Americans who are not hard partisans, right or left, who will now scrutinize this because the system has rendered a judgment. Until this afternoon, that judgment was a pure abstraction. It is abstract no longer.
Major Garrett from Washington. Thank you so much, Major. CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor Jessica Levinson joins me now. Jessica, let's now sit right down on top of the law here. We've been talking about politics and the reaction in the street. What successful case did the prosecution make here, just to remind people of what they were able to do, and your reaction to the case now that there's been a verdict?
Well, my reaction is that the prosecution was able to tell a consistent story of what makes the most sense here. What makes the most sense is that Donald Trump entered into basically a criminal conspiracy to try and bury this story, and that's Stormy Daniels' allegations in the wake of the Access Hollywood tape, so that the voters didn't hear about what she has to say. And you, the jury, heard what she had to say. How do you think that would have landed with the voters right before they walked into the ballot box? So I think the prosecution was able to take a complicated case. John, you and I talked about it. There were a lot of hurdles that the prosecution had to cross, and they were
impacted. It really would have moved the dial one way or the other. For the most part, we're looking at those 7 battleground states, as you know, John, and the polling that we have seen shows that it's really not a top issue. But about those specific voters that you were referring to, and I would say, like, there's been a lot said about the Haley supporters, if you will, the sort of formerly McCain Republicans who are like traditional conservatives or even moderate, and to them, speaking to top Democrats earlier today, those associated with the Biden campaign, they do feel that this helps their cause. They do feel that those who are on the bubble in those respective 7 states, especially, could have their decision impacted by this. Like, they're not expecting this. They're not expecting any sort of like fantasies here, any sort of like, you know, like a huge dial move, if you will. But will it have an impact? They feel yes. Will it have an impact with those persuadable Republican voters somewhere in the middle? They believe they do have a stronger argument now that this has happened. However, John, as you know, probably better than anybody, we have 5 months left until the November 5th election, right? You know, the best thing for Trump politically is that there are 5 months left. The worst thing for Trump politically is that there are 5 months left, because that could be a
What do you think this does? Conventions ain't what they used to be, of course, but the sentencing is 5 days before the Republican convention. What do you think this does to that?
Just a few days before the convention, right? Just a few days before we were expected, or around the time, because they themselves said that we could hear who the vice presidential running mate will be around the convention, and just before the first debate that is happening. So we've never been here before, John. This is such an unprecedented place that we've been to. Where I know we talked about it like ad nauseum now, but we've never seen this in American history. We've now never seen a convicted presumptive nominee of a major party who is leading in many polls that we've seen.
In the Democratic Party, if this happened, there would be endless rounds of hand-wringing. I mean, there's lots of hand-wringing going on in the Democratic Party right now without a criminal conviction. That's more their way of doing things. Do you expect anything like that on the Republican side? There is, of course, the anti-Trump. We can name the members of the anti-Trump wing. Many of them are former or are on their way out the door because the party no longer is interested in them. But do you see this, I mean, being a convicted criminal, despite what the former president is saying, having any new germination inside the Republican Party for any leader or any member of the House or Senate who might think, well, maybe I'm going to, you know, react to this other than purely being on the president's side?
I think potentially, yes. To some degree, again, going back, not the base voter, not even some of these elected officials who are currently running. And as you know, there's a lot more territory now on the Senate side, if you will, Republicans running and trying to capture more seats in the Senate. Will this have an effect? Will this influence that voter? I think we have to wait to see how this, what this does. We did know, John, that just a few days ago, I did speak to some top Democrats who are close to the Biden campaign who were nervous, apprehensive about Trump standing in recent polls, apprehensive about the direction of the campaign. You know, what this does also is that we're not focused fully on this.
Yeah.
We're focused fully on this conviction, right? So, you know, that kind of goes to the side. And now that's going to get so much attention, their hope is that there will be more focus by these voters who may not be paying attention, who may be just kind of paying attention like peripherally.
It's a very good point. The low information voter, this is now on the screens of every TV and will be in the maybe breakthrough. That's really interesting. Finn Gomez, thank you so much. Thanks, CBS News political director. Daniel Horowitz joins me now. He's a partner at McLaughlin and Stern law firm, and he's a former Manhattan assistant district attorney. Thank you so much for being with us, Daniel. As a former assistant DA in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, what do you make of the verdict?
I'm not surprised. The DA put together a masterful case with tremendous amount of corroboration around Michael Cohen. They had witnesses to the hilt. They had tapes. They had documents. They did an extraordinarily thorough and comprehensive job. And the fact that the jury came back so quickly with a verdict, and frankly, the questions that they posed yesterday really sort of framed exactly what the DA wanted them to think about, which is the bookend of David Pecker and Michael Cohen corroborating each other about the most important elements of the crime.
So explain that bookend for people who are not fully versed on all the details of this case. What were the two underlying, or what were the most important underlying facts that were solidified? And just to remind people, Michael Cohen was a thoroughly compromised witness who spent his career lying as an employee for Donald Trump, was then convicted for lying, and then wasn't, didn't seem tremendously credible at times on the stand. Nevertheless, your point is there was corroborating evidence around those bookends. Explain what you think that they solidified in the minds of the jury.
Sure. I mean, the central allegation is that Donald Trump, along with Michael Cohen and David Pecker, orchestrated this conspiracy to help Trump get elected by suppressing unfavorable and unflattering stories and by paying off Stormy Daniels, not to tell her story that Donald Trump had slept with her, Karen McDougal, the same thing. And David Pecker, as the publisher of the National Enquirer, was a critical player in that because there were stories from Stormy Daniels, from Karen McDougal, that, to use his word, the National Enquirer caught and killed, meaning that they went out, got the stories, paid those people money so that the stories would never run. And that was all intended to help Donald Trump in the days leading up to the 2016 election. And the bookends, you have David Pecker, longtime publisher of the National Enquirer, friend of Donald Trump, said he was a friend of Donald Trump when he testified, said he still liked Donald Trump, testifying. You also have Michael Cohen, the president's fixer, who by title was a lawyer, but really did all the dirty work. And he's the one who sort of put all of the details into execution that Trump had detailed to him, along with Trump's other lieutenants, Alan Weisselberg and others in the Trump organization.
Daniel, let me ask you this final question about this possible grounds for appeal on this question, which is the judge instructed the jury that as they considered the evidence and considered whether the former president falsified business records, they had to think about whether it was done in furtherance of covering up another crime, and that they could choose between three different kinds of crimes. One were state election laws, one was federal election laws, and then the third was other business forms, I guess also, and tax records. The argument from the Trump team is that's crazy, the kind of pick your lane way of turning this into a felony. Why is that not a good ground for appeal?
I mean, I think that it's, as a lot of people have said, it's not a theory that's been well trod. And so as a result, any defense lawyer, whether it's Donald Trump's or anybody else, is going to say, hey, look, this is a novel theory, so we've got good grounds for appeal. The reason it doesn't really work, in my view, is because the fundamental crime that underlies the falsifying of business records, in other words, false entries were made in business records to cover up another crime. And that crime, as the judge instructed the jury, was a violation of New York State election law, which says that you can't engage.
I mean, I told them that I kept telling them for 2 years that his ass was going to jail. You know, I took no joy in it. I kept saying I took joy in them being so stupid that they were blind to it. But I take no joy in him going to jail. I just was certain that he was. I was like, well, from what I've heard, he's got 200 felonies on his fucking, on his docket. And I don't know why the lawyers or the judges would lie about that. And they weren't, I don't think.
Conduct with an election.
It seems like half the country just sort of believed that was all bullshit, I guess. But I mean, they're courts. The courts is never bullshit. If the courts ever bullshit, right? If a court is ever bullshit, it calls into question all of the cases that it ever handled. So I mean, like, courts are not full of shit like the news is, you know? And that's what I stepped with for the last goddamn 3 years. I was like, nah, there's many felony cases fucking stacking and pending that he's just been putting off. And when he lost the election, quite legitimately, I might add, by the Georgia Republicans' account anyways,
that phrase,
his only chance was the popular vote after that point. And that wasn't going to happen. He had, 200 felonies on his docket. And by docket, I mean, like, they have booked him for the next, like, we knew this. I've known this since 2021, I think. We've known this for 3.5, 4 years, something like that. We knew that he had been skating along this thin ice of 200 goddamn different court cases and felonies and stuff. But I mean, like, but we kept saying it, but nobody believed me. None of the right wing believed, none of the rightists I ever met believed me that any of that stuff would stick. And I was like, well, yeah, but you understand, most of the judges and most of the lawyers and most of the people in the court system are in the GOP. They're like right wingers. It doesn't matter. The courts don't fuck around. They have him dead to rights on 200 felonies. And everybody kept saying, nah, you're full of shit. It's just a fantasy. He's not going to jail or any of this stuff. And I was like, no, I fucks with reality. You don't. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I was hoping this would happen. I had hoped they would just let him skate, honestly. I don't want this. I did not want this combat. This combat between the parties. I'd rather they just let him skate and let him make his honest try again than this debacle where one side is totally jaded and angry at the other. I don't really want that. I never wanted it. I just said, how do you guys are so weird. You act like 200 felonies don't exist. I guess you just never faced fucking, you never faced charges in court like I have. They're fucking serious. You can't get around them. I mean, there's nothing you can do. I would say it's the one thing that humanity believes in is the court system. I would say it's the one thing that we all sort of unified believe in. We don't believe in it. I don't think we all believe in our own government. I don't think we believe in our own fucking, like, any system or anything at all, but I think we do believe in the courts. You know, I think everybody in this society is expected to believe in the courts and for them to represent us well and for them to give us a fair verdict and all this other stuff. And so, like, I was like, how do you dodge 200 felonies? I know because you know, I dodged 2 felonies and it cost me 30 grand in lawyers and in time and seven years of probation and promises and drug court and rehab and the madhouse and, you know, like a case manager with the mental health facility and all this. It took a lot. You know, it took a lot for me to be able to be, you know, well again and to get out of the felonies. And the only way I got out of them is I had to convince them that, yeah, in 17 years I haven't been convicted of anything at all. And you have to understand, I'm just fucked up. I have a drug addiction. I have a drug addict girlfriend. Her life fell apart, so my life fell apart. I fell down to the streets. I lost my cab and my car. I couldn't drive anymore. I didn't have a job. I was a part-time assistance fucking worker. I would like help take care of people as a part-time caretaker, or I would fix laptop screens and stuff like this, or I would, flag traffic for the fucking day labor place and all this. And I would just, try to get by. And, I don't know, it's just weird. While I just battled the courts, I battled the courts for things that weren't even barely a felony. Just possession of less than a gram of heroin and methamphetamine each. And that was the worst felony that I faced, and they dropped that. They dropped that to a deferred. Sorry, not deferred, but what is it? Unsupervised. They just dropped the case. They dropped the case. They said, if you do a year of unsupervised probation, we will drop this case. We're aware that the drugs were your girlfriend's, and we believe you, and all this. And they didn't believe me, but they went with the story anyways. They were like, well, he maintains still that these weren't his drugs, and he didn't know that they were there, or he wouldn't have consented to the search. And the judge was like, I think I'm going to choose to believe him on this one, but I don't think anybody else did. I think they all thought I was lying, but I wasn't. I wouldn't have consented to a search if I had thought there was any drugs in the car, because I was a very good drug dealer, And the only time that there ever would have been drugs in the car is if there was somebody else, right? If there was somebody else's drugs who hid them and didn't tell me. And that's what happened, right? And I try not to hate her for this, but it's another reason I said fuck you in the end. I said fuck you to M at the end. At the end of it, she was facing, AIDS, Hep C, fucking, the needle. She needed somebody. She needed friends and help. But in the end, I said fuck you, particularly because, I don't know, it's too personal.
And
well, her drugs were in my car, and it fucked me. It fucked me so bad. It ended my business. It ended my cab business, my cab career. Her drugs fucked me so bad, and honestly, there's in that girl's heart, there is no malice. There's no malice in that girl's heart. There's a scatterbrain drug addict, but there's no malice in that girl's heart. I think I saw, every time I ever saw her get into a situation that required some kind of choice between good or bad, she just unerringly went good. It would literally quote you like, that's what God would want me to do, right? And I believed her. I mean, I really believed her, that she didn't know those drugs were there. I didn't know the drugs were there. I shouldn't have let her drive my car. I mean,
prosecutors and the judge instructed the jury that...
I mean, she never drove my car. She just lived in my car with me for years.
There are these 3 different alternatives.
There was tinfoil with black on it, charred black in a fucking line. So they were gonna fix me for another charge, peripheral, what do they call that? Paraphernalia. But he looked at me and he was like, "You're not a junkie, are you?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Why do you have tinfoil with black tar heroin on it?" I was like, "My ex-girlfriend." And he was like, "Oh." And I was like, "Yeah."
As to what unlawful means actually means. Now, I don't think that at the end of the day...
No, I could have had tinfoil with black tar on it too, but I mean, not really though.
The appellate...
I could have, I recreationally used heroin. I thought it was awesome. Just like I would recreationally use goddamn heroin all the time if I could. Or methamphetamine, heroin. Not heroin, but opioids, right? I love it. I love opioids. They make your entire fucking body relax. You get this euphoria and this high, and you're like, oh, I feel so good. Nothing hurts. You know? And I love it. But the problem is, it just leads to worse behavior. So I just stay away from it entirely.
Appellate division, which is the
if it didn't lead to worse behavior, I would be fine with it. But the problem with opioids is you better knock out for 16 hours, and there's no such thing as not doing it again the next day. You know, you might tell yourself, "Oh, I'm not going to do this again." There's no such thing as that.
Court in New York State is going to find much truck in Trump's argument on that.
So I tried to be angry at her, and I was angry at her for a lot of reasons. But I tried to be angry at her for, just making a mistake that ruined my life. But I couldn't, because I know that she had no malice in her heart. And I like that about humanity. Most of the time I get along with humanity just fine if they have no malice in their heart towards me. I get along with them just fine. Anybody I've ever met will tell you. I get along with everybody I've ever met. I'm that guy that everybody likes. And I know it sounds delusional, but it's not. Like I'm that guy that gets along with everybody, doesn't judge you. I'm from the lower class. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your religion is. I love you, whatever. I get along with fucking everybody. I genuinely do. And so when I have a problem with somebody, it's usually because they have a problem with me for no reason.
So much for being with us. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland.
I've got a couple of people I've wronged in the past who I suppose could hate me. I have a friend who I used for a year and a half as companionship in the madhouse, and then I just dissed and left. But I mean, we were opposite sides of the political spectrum and had nothing in common, really. Not even the video games, even, really. And call it your jail buddy or whatever, but I had like a jail buddy. I was in probation, fucking jail, essentially, in the madhouse, and in the madhouse, that's how I like to think of it, but it's actually the mental health facility, and I feel bad about that one, but I gave him a computer. In return, I gave him a computer. I was like, here's a gaming computer. I don't want it anymore. I'm buying a new one. You can have my old gaming computer. And he was so happy. I couldn't tell you. It was like the greatest gift anybody had ever given him, almost. And I was like, here you go. It's fine. You can have it. And so I hope that kept us balanced, because I'm sure he felt that I just dissed him and left, because I did. I didn't even say goodbye. I just was like, bye. Poof, gone. Because I don't want a jail buddy. And I don't want to hang out with somebody I met in jail. I don't. And then I hope he understands that. And then the other one is my ex-girlfriend, my second most recent one. I was her drug dealer for about a year, and she was my girlfriend that I lived with for a year. And it ended badly, and my friends and family came and extracted me from that situation. They literally came to the front door, knocked on the door, got me up, informed me that I was packing my stuff and leaving her house and never coming back. And then my best friends dragged me out of her house. And she had a problem, and I had a problem, and I'm sure she blames me for her drug addiction. But the only thing that brought me into her life was a random Craigslist ad. And she responded to me. It's not like I was out looking for some dope addict girl to use as an apartment or someplace to live or something like that. That's, I'm sure, how it came across at the end, as I was using her. But I mean, I was homeless. I was homeless at that time. I was couch surfing. I did not have a home. I would sleep in my car and shit. She was like, you can come home and come in out of the cold if you want. And I was like, okay. But I was like, immediately I could tell we weren't that compatible. And I was like, she really liked me. So it was just like, and so then eventually I left her for my last one. And I told her that you're not the Disney princess, she's the Disney princess, and I'm in love with the Disney princess, and it's not you. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to be honest with you. I know that's harmful the way I said it, but it's the honest fucking fact. It's like, I was raised to look for the Disney princess, that's her. It's not you. And I said it like that. And I wish I hadn't said it like that. That was hateful and harmful. I'm sure she hates me for it. But it was the truth. And you know, it was the truth. It wasn't that she wasn't a wonderful woman. She was. It was that she wasn't the one, you know? And I told her, I was like, yep, I was raised to look for the Disney princess. That's her. It's not you. I'm sorry. We broke up like 5 times or something. I hate it when it's like that. That's the only one, too. I've had 7 long-term relationships comprising about 5.5 years, something like that. And in that time, like, I would say that was the healthiest relationship that I had. But it was also the worst relationship that I had had, which was weird. When we were fine, everything was good. When we were at each other's throats because we were drug addicts, it was horrible. And I could see her really hating me. But I mean, I never did anything to her. I gave her free drugs for a year. I lived in her place, but I paid rent, you know? I was on time. I didn't do anything to her. You know?
From congressional...
I remember her trying to struggle and fight me when I was leaving.
Leaders, or if not leaders...
I never harmed her, you know?
Members of Congress reacting to this guilty...
I wonder sometimes if I have some mortal enemies sometimes, who it might be. Is it an ex-girlfriend? Is it, like, you know, some fucking rando? Is it some kid? Is it somebody I fucked over at some point? Is it somebody I stole from? Is it, you know? It's weird because I think whoever the person is, I think they want themselves to be special in my life, but I've got so many fucking dealings with so many fucking people. I don't even know. Yeah. I've got no one that I've ever harmed in a way where I could say that they ever even would want to throw a punch at me.
John, first of all, the dividing line is pretty clear here.
Maybe people might hate me because I called them a bunch of nasty names on my stream, I guess. But that's only because they attacked me.
And the reaction, and it's somewhat...
So I look back and I'm like, yeah, you know, water under the bridge.
Predictable. We're hearing the words corrupt, rigged, weaponized, and political in the statements from
Republicans. I mean, that's the court case of an ex-president. Yeah, I would say that's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah.
Republicans and Trump allies about the jury's decision. So many of them ascribing a motive to the Biden administration, despite the fact that that is a meritless claim, and that this was a local, not a federal prosecution brought by a prosecutor in Manhattan, approved by a grand jury of Mr. Trump's peers, and a conviction by a jury of Mr. Trump's peers. The Democrats are leaning into the opposite argument, one that you would expect, that this was a righteous prosecution, that it was a jury's voice and a jury's decision, and that Donald Trump is now not just a former president, but a convicted felon. Doesn't seem to be any surprises in the political reaction. I'll just note a couple small things that are worth mentioning. There was one Republican, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, criticized the prosecution. He's one of the few senators on the Republican side who voted to convict Donald Trump, impeach him in 2021. He criticized the defense for its strategy in this trial. And Larry Hogan, the Republican trying to win the nomination or to win the general election in the blue state of Maryland, said it's time for Americans to come together and stop being so divided by politics. A bit of an equivocation from somebody trying to run as a moderate.
Yes, and as if politics were a free-floating thing. There are some specifics to wrestle with today, but the former governor will have to do that on his own. Let me ask you something, Scott. You've covered a lot of trials. Remind us again what usually happens when somebody is convicted. My recollection from covering a few trials myself is they say, we respect the jury's decision and we will appeal because we think on the law we have a case. But there is some nod made to the process that you still then are going to have to be in as you work your appeal to get the guilty verdict overturned. A, do I have that right or wrong? And B, give me your historical perspective on how convicted members usually respond as a way to gauge the Trump response versus what the norm is.
That's a good question. Let's look at this huge set of cases we have that are Trump adjacent. The January 6 criminal prosecutions, those are in federal court. Sentencing happens through a very rigorous, traditional, months-long process, and we've heard any number of the defendants in that case, in those cases, question the political leanings of the jury. and the venue. This destabilizing argument that jurors are political creatures who operate as political creatures when they're jurors. That's a destabilizing argument that has led to some appeals, none of which have been successful. In fact, an appeals court just this week, John, shot down a January 6th defendant's argument that he had a loaded jury from Washington, D.C. in his case. You see the same type of destabilizing arguments already popping up in the hours after the Trump conviction, that this was a liberal jury in Manhattan, that we can't trust the jury system. I don't know what the consequences of that are, John, but we saw the consequences of when they destabilized the integrity of American elections in 2020, and we're still feeling the pain of that to this day.
Yeah, it's a very good point. You can think I think, that the jury got it wrong. You can maybe even think the judge had wrong instructions. But for lawmakers to make this leap and say, which, as you pointed out, has no merit and no evidence, that this is somehow connected to Biden, that seems to go a step further and engage in the kind of danger you're talking about, which is to sow doubt about the very system. And in our politics, we have seen, because doubt was sowed about the outcome of the 2020 election, that for a certain group of people in the country, when there is doubt, they take matters into their own hands. You've covered the people who took matters into their own hands when they had this gasoline thrown on the floor, when they were told that the system was rigged. How, when they were told the system was rigged, we have, sorry, Scott, with that windup, we now have Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg at the microphones.
Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank the jury for its service. Jurors perform a fundamental civic duty. Their service is literally the cornerstone of our judicial system. We should all be thankful for the careful attention.
Thank you to the jury. Thank you.
Evidence.
Thank you for bringing this conviction. I like that you guys saw the justice and not the fucking sway.
Law and their time and commitment over these past several weeks. 12 everyday New Yorkers and of course our alternates heard testimony from 22 witnesses, including former and current employees of the defendant, media executives, book publishers, custodians of records, and others. They reviewed call logs, text messages, and emails. They heard recordings. They saw checks and invoices, bank statements, and calendar appointments. This type of white-collar prosecution is core to what we do at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. In the 1930s, District Attorney Thomas Dewey ushered in the era of the modern, independent professional prosecutor. For now nearly 90 years, dedicated professionals in this office have built upon that fine tradition. A major part of our practice during that nearly 90 years has been public integrity work, including cases involving jurists, local and state electeds, public servants, and others. I want to thank this phenomenal prosecution team, embodying the finest traditions of this office: professionalism, integrity, dedication, and service. They are model public servants, and I am proud and humbled to serve side by side with them. The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election. And while this defendant maybe unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor. I want to conclude by expressing deep gratitude to the NYPD and the officers of the Office of Court Administration for securing the courthouse, all of our safety, making sure the courthouse and all of the other matters that are important in their own right continued seamlessly. They will continue to be and have always been incredible partners. Thank you.
And do you plan to request a prison sentence?
I can't talk about this right now. I can't talk about this right now. I can't talk about this right now.
Of the gag order that was in place should factor in that request at all.
The judge scheduled a sentencing for July 11th.
Until then, we don't know.
Court in that time. He also
Why
set
would you ask him this,
schedule.
you fucking idiot? Do you think he's going to give you any information? That would totally ruin the case.
We will speak in our court filings as we've done.
What the fuck are you
proceeding.
talking about? You're an idiot. Why did you ask? You think they're going to give you any information? You're a noob. Noob! I could do your job better than you.
I do not.
Journalist. Look at all that money, 20K.
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day in matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
That's right. Testify, brother.
Mr. Steinglass, many people said the prosecution was masterful and flawless. Just want to know how you feel at this moment.
That's a good question. That's a question he can answer. He's like, well, I don't know. Let me ask my lawyer. And the lawyer's like, no, you can answer the question. It's okay. It's over. You go right ahead, buddy. You answer how you want to. Yeah.
How do you feel?
Mr. Steinglass, I think some of you probably saw him speak for a little bit the other day. So he's done his job, as has this team. And he just told me, tell him how I feel. I think you said that. I will just say enormous gratitude. You know,
it's
our,
good,
our
baby.
System,
it's
I
good.
About the jurors,
it's good.
At the beginning of my remarks.
Yep.
We have a phenomenal system.
Yeah, we do.
12
it's
everyday New Yorker.
It's the system itself is flawed. I don't know how to fix it, but I know that the system itself is beautiful. It is not a flawed concept. The law. We have spent thousands of years perfecting it. The Greeks brought us law, and I think it is the greatest gift that mankind has received. It's a general escape from the savageness of just bettering oneself over others.
Listen to the judge's directions. Follow the evidence. You saw them in court every day. They were careful and attentive.
I actually have watched some of this trial. I think, 4 days ago, I watched a good 2.5 hours of it or something like that. I just watched it. I was like, I need to see what's going on, and I watched it. And I was like, I like these people. They were conducting themselves well, despite the jokey fucking demeanor of this room. I mean, the man is a Mad Hatter.
Deep gratitude to work alongside them, to be a part of this system. And I just want to echo that this is what we're doing every single day. I mean, during this trial.
Yeah, that's what we do every day, motherfucker. This is like, yeah, like I love you guys. Like, I love you guys there on the forefront of the system. You know, I don't like the system, but I like the people that are trying to keep it together.
Just this week, right?
I don't like the system, but I like the people. Do you see him? I like this guy. I think you like this guy. I hope you like this guy. I like this guy. I think he tries really hard to make sure that everybody gets their fair shake.
Got indictment, Grimaldi's wage theft plea resolution, sex crimes, convictions. All sorts of work
all kinds of stuff that they're doing, and they're like, this is stellar work and this is what we do. We took your tax money, we took your tax money, and we did not run with it. We came, and like, I hate the system, but I do believe in the people that are trying to keep it running. I do. I believe in the public defenders that have 300 goddamn defendants.
So we're before you today on this.
Yeah, you are before me, and I like what I see here. I have some faith in my money going somewhere that's good.
Obviously consequential matter.
I have, like, he's like, please do not think that this is somehow the fault of the court. Like,
but this is what we do every day.
This is what we do every day. All I did was prosecute this motherfucker. That was it.
We follow the facts and the law.
Yeah, and he's right about this. Like, if you were to track him, like I'm sure that they think this is some hit piece, but it's not, motherfucker. If you were to go and be a fly on the wall of this guy's life, he's probably got 180 cases, something like that. They're probably closing 65 of them or something and pushing the other 120 over the next 2 years and trying to keep it running, give them the time and get around to the case and the evidence and everything. And I see them turning cases and burning. And that's what I require from them as a taxpayer. I want them to fucking give them a right to a speedy trial. I mean, that was their idea in the first place. As I can hate the system, but I don't hate the people trying to keep the system running. Isn't that kind of weird? It's like the same thing about like being anti-abortion but pro-choice, or pro-gun rights but pro-gun control. Being like, it's weird. Like on this one, it's like I am not for brutalizing criminals or putting people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses and stuff, but I am a firm, deep believer in the law, and I think it is sacrosanct, and I do not believe it should be corrupted. And I think that these are kangaroo courts in the respect that they are swayed by public opinion very, very, very badly. And I think that they kind of joke this off, and they kind of like they act like, oh, see, nobody heard the tree fall in the woods, so nothing happened, right? But no, I do. I know that you guys kind of pervert justice with your own sense of what's right and wrong. I look at this man, and I don't see that. I don't see a witch hunt. I don't see Jim Garrison. I don't see I don't see a hunter. I don't see, I see somebody who, if you were to be a fly on his wall in all of the courtrooms that he spends all of his days in, you're going to understand that when he speaks passionately about this, he's actually not fucking around. They spend goddamn 40, 50 hours of every single week for the last goddamn 17 years or something like that. I guarantee you 15 years. You can tell by the white in his beard. 15, 17 years just trying to make sure that everybody gets a fucking fair shake. I have no doubt in our fucking systems, people. I have a doubt in the system.
Is in the cards. It is likely that Trump and his attorneys would.
And he wants the people to know. He's like, no, there's no shadiness here. You go ahead and run your inquiries. It doesn't matter. There's no shadiness here. We prosecuted exactly how we always do everybody the fuck else.
He could stay on it.
And the judge and the jury fucking came back, and the jury was convinced that he was guilty. And this guy won't brook any goddamn nonsense, nor should he. The same as the Georgia Republicans, who were like, no, this was not a stolen election. No, you lost. That's the Georgia Republicans who stepped forward. You got to remember, these people, they got ousted in their own party for just telling the truth. That was it.
Sentence pending appeal.
There's been a lot of lies and a lot of witch hunts and a lot of fucking burning and a lot of witch burns, Been a lot of witch fires, too.
If that were the scenario, would your office object to staying the sentence?
I'm going to let our words in court speak for themselves when we get to the sentencing matter. I'm not going to address hypotheticals. They raise arguments, we'll respond, and I think your question really underscores an important point. This is an active, ongoing matter, right? We have other phases of this going ahead. We will continue to do our speaking about this matter, about issues like that in court.
Yep.
From
day one, kind of the viability of this case has been questioned in all sorts of media outlets all over the place, including from the defendant himself. Can you respond to any of that, how you feel now that you've gotten the conviction?
Consult the lawyer.
So my response...
No. He was able to answer on his own here. I love that. He answered on his own.
You've been listening to Manhattan District Attorney...
Oh, I want to hear him talk.
Alvin Bragg.
I want to hear him talk. I don't want to hear you talk. Shut the fuck up.
Discuss the guilty verdict in Donald Trump's criminal trial.
Why?
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland joins me
again. I want to hear him talk.
Again from Washington. Scott, he defended the...
I want to hear him talk. I don't want to hear you talk. I don't want to hear you talk.
Didn't defend it.
I could do this guy's job a lot better than this guy could do this guy's job.
Praised it. Said this is what the Manhattan District Attorney's Office does.
I don't want to hear you talk. I want to hear him talk. Get your fucking face out of here. I don't care.
Every day. What did you take away from the Manhattan District Attorney?
I want you to take away from this conversation and shut the fuck up.
First of all, the phrase here, quite a bit. I guess the court team will speak through their filings, what type of sentence they're going to recommend. 11 most certainly the defense gets to make a recommendation, but going to recommend in this case. It really is the overarching question we're stuck with now until July 11th. What type of
3 months in minimum security. The man is not a, Tony Soprano. He is a white-collar crime person. He's a upper-class white-collar crime, dodging the taxes, lying on the contracts, inflating value, selling high, buying low, all that stuff, and insider trading probably. And I would say that 3 months of minimum security is a proper sentence for somebody like this.
Does Donald Trump?
And I hope that's what they get. You understand how I never was much for hurting this man? You understand? I was never much for hurting this man. I don't believe maybe he raped somebody, I don't know, but I was never much for hurting this man. I just want him to acknowledge that he has been a bad actor. That's all.
The prosecutors get to make a recommendation.
I want the right wing, the votes for him, to understand, what he was guilty of. And they think it's all trumped up and that it's a lie and all this. But it's not, though. We're talking about fucking witnesses in a court case who will face perjury charges if they lie. It's not, though. Every witness, every bit of evidence is exactly what it should be. Like, this is not it's a kangaroo court because of all the problems having to do with the people who are involved in the case. But it is not a kangaroo court when it comes to the evidence at all.
Is to make a recommendation, but just count me as dubious that you can etch that July 11th date into stone, John. 4 days before the Republican National Convention, any number of tactics, legal points of order Donald Trump can make to try to push that date back, he's likely to employ them if he sees fit to do so.
He certainly has in every other venue. Scott McFarland in Washington, thank you so much, Scott. Coming up, a special edition of America Decides. My colleague Caitlin Huey-Burns will have continuing coverage of Donald Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts.
34 felony counts.
For to use the word you chose, unprecedented, but it's also a test for the American people, the American political system. Because unlike, for example, past presidential moments where the country really saw scandal erupt, like Watergate in the 1970s, there's not a consensus now in the American political discourse about the rule of law, about the judicial system here in New York, or the justice system on a federal level. You have many Republicans aligned with Trump, believing, in their words, it's rigged, even though Trump was just tried by a jury of 12 New Yorkers, his peers. And many Democrats see Trump as a threat to democracy. Robert De Niro, the Academy Award-winning actor, I spoke to him a couple days ago, and he told me he came here because he really believes Trump is a threat to the order that was established by the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. So you have these diametrically opposed viewpoints, not just red and blue anymore. It's populism and nationalism versus almost traditional institutional thinking on a variety of fronts. And all of that is a cloud over the consequence of this trial. So this is a moment where there's uncertainty on the horizon, politically, legally, and in terms of American democracy.
Yeah, and Bob, as you are always right to remind us that we can assume nothing, so we will see what the...
I love that there's an Uber Eats guy in the background and he's delivering like a big old fucking food box to all the rich press people. And it's like this whole element of Americana that you'd only understand if you lived here, where like some of us are serfs to the system and we have to ride bikes around with boxes on our backs and stuff just to make sure that we can eat and have rent. You can see it going on in the background while they suss out whether or not this guy should go to jail for stealing $165 million worth of back taxes.
Are politically in this election. Bob, we thank you very much.
And this guy's really scared of his bike being stolen.
And congressional Republicans are already hammering this guilty verdict in Trump's criminal trial. We'll check in on Capitol Hill. You're streaming America Decides.
Yeah, America Decides. Yeah, it's
coming up our series. Wait a minute, Tom, is that you working the camera?
Keep leaning out of your close-up.
That's Tom Hanks.
Your morning routine just got better.
Why was Tom
CBS
Hanks
Mornings,
doing the
weekdays
camera?
at 7.
I had progressively fallen deeper into the world of online sports betting.
The risk is the rush. What do you think is driving the spike in popularity?
You know, the fact that it's right in your pocket.
I think it's legality.
If it's legal,
I think it's in your pocket, and right now, while we're talking about this, I could be sports gambling right now rather than listening to you. And I think that's the problem, is it's right in your pocket.
I'm going to use it. There are ways.
I think you got connected to gambling right in your pocket, and I think it destroyed you. I'm not trying to laugh at you. I'm just saying that's what I think happened.
When you are 18.
We've created an epidemic of child gambling.
You can't walk into a male dormitory in a college campus without sports betting happening.
It's America's most neglected problem.
I use sports betting as a way to escape, when in reality, I'm choosing self-destruction. Whatever I had left, it was gone.
The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
Go to the ends of the earth. Reach for the stars.
Yeah, I just took off.
That kind of thing.
Oh, that's pretty good. Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
Shut up, CBS. Shush, Brand.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
That desired farm is a wonderful place to raise children, and it still is.
Promises broken.
Black Americans have been the target of racism and discrimination pretty much from the time they acquired ownership in the land.
Costing black farmers hundreds of billions in generational wealth.
They did everything to make sure we were run off that land.
But communities are uniting to continue the fight.
Collective ownership is powerful.
To keep their land and their dreams alive.
To watch my children play on land that we own means everything.
So land is power.
Most definitely.
40 Acres and a Mule, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA requires states to provide community-based treatment for persons with mental disabilities.
But of the 16,000 people who remain in state-operated institutions, half are in 5 states, and Illinois is one of them.
I don't want to live in the institution. It makes me feel discriminated against.
Do you think there are people living in institutions in Illinois that don't need to be living there?
Yes, because they're proving it as soon as they get out.
Republican congressional leadership has been critical of former President Donald Trump's guilty verdict. Our Scott McFarland joins us now to discuss. Scott, thank you for being here on this marathon day. So we had House Speaker Mike Johnson. Of course, he and almost all Republicans have been critical of this process. How is he reacting to this?
It just shows in the first couple of hours since the verdict that nothing seems to change the political calculus whatsoever, the trajectory on Donald Trump among his supporters. House Speaker Mike Johnson issued a statement which is symmetrical, parallel to so many other Republicans, saying, "The weaponization of our justice system has been a hallmark of the Biden administration, and the decision today is further evidence Democrats will stop at nothing to silence dissent and to crush their political opponents." We had several other statements from several other Republican leaders with a number of keywords, Caitlin: corrupt, rigged, weaponized, political. If that word cloud was created of the statements, you'd see those words at the center of it. Democrats leaning into the parallel argument, or the reflection of that argument, which is that this was the system working. This was citizens, the former president's peers, rendering a verdict. This was not the work of any political actors, certainly not the Biden administration.
Yeah, nobody is above the law in their words in a lot of those statements. We've seen kind of a parade of Republican allies outside the courthouse. Nearly every day he has had some kind of cohort of supporters outside the courthouse. Give us a sense of, what comes next for Republicans on Capitol Hill. Does this become part of a campaign argument? As you mentioned, they're really echoing Trump's campaign phrases.
These are Republicans who, first of all, not only synchronized their message outside the courthouse, but synchronized their clothing at one point outside the courthouse. It was a choreographed message, at least it seemed that way. But it also synchronizes with what they're doing on Capitol Hill as Republicans endeavor to continue their impeachment inquiry into President Biden, continue their investigation into Hunter Biden, and on Tuesday, called the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland for questioning before one of the Republican-led House committees, with a keen focus, we suspect, on January 6th, on the prosecutions of Donald Trump through the special counsel, and on what's going on with Hunter Biden. So you have this political tonnage they're carrying and are poised to use and dump in the coming weeks.
And as you mentioned earlier, the sentencing for this conviction could come 4 days before the Republican National Convention. What are the stakes there?
Yeah. It's a July 11th sentencing hearing, 10 in the morning in Manhattan, a July 15th launch date to the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. The former date is not set in stone. We've seen sentencing hearings moved in many cases through the years. No reason to believe this one is firm and locked. It could shift, but if it doesn't, it certainly is an appetizer to what's about to happen on a stage in Milwaukee.
Yeah, nominating a convicted felon. It will be another history-making day, to be sure. Scott McFarland, thank you very much for your time. And if Donald Trump gets prison time, he'll have his Secret Service detail backing him up. Excuse me.
She like swallow wrong.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
Nate has one of the quickest minds I've ever seen.
Tony has a way of making people feel comfortable.
Gailey has this unbelievable knack to ask the question that you're asking at home.
I've been told I could talk to a tree, and that's pretty much true.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my two good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
It didn't seem like anything could happen, because nothing ever happens in East Palestine, but it did.
Authorities released toxic fumes from 5 derailed train cars.
Acute bronchitis due to chemical fumes.
Did you ever have these problems before the derailment?
No, ma'am.
This neighborhood's not safe no more.
We can assure the community that there's not vinyl chloride entering their communities.
Then why are there so many people feeling these various symptoms of bloody noses or difficulty breathing and bronchitis?
That's a hard question to answer.
We're talking about one of the most blatant releases of a mixture of some of the most toxic chemicals that we've seen in America.
I feel like now I have a duty to warn other communities. If my daughter has to watch me die of cancer, at least it saves someone else.
straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Stories that inform.
Damn it. I'm stopping news and started being commercial. Ooh, free Hazzy.
News Chief Washington Correspondent, and Jan is CBS News Chief Legal Correspondent. A lot of chiefs here. Thank you all. John, I want to start with you because we have talked all afternoon about this historic moment that we have here. But walk us through, as you do best, the real gravity of what we have just learned.
Well, in 237 years of the American presidency and 46 men who've held that job, one has never been a convicted felon. So that sets the stakes right there. I think that the real gravity that is on my mind right now is that, Donald Trump is now not just convicted, but he is also the Republican nominee, and there's an election underway, and there is a veep stakes underway, and the incentives of politics are to run down and denigrate the legal system. That's not to say that Donald Trump, like every other person, isn't allowed his chance to appeal and that there might not be grounds for appeal. But to go so far, as some of his supporters are doing, and make the groundless accusation that Joe Biden is, involved in this in some way, echoes the same kinds of baseless claims that were made after the 2020 election, which Donald Trump lost. And when those baseless claims are made that the system is rigged, people who are of a mind to operate and take things into their own hands, when that kind of prodding is given to them, they take things into their own hands. And I am concerned now about how people who should be stewards of the system, of the constitutional system, how they will react in political terms that exacerbates the violent responses that we've seen in our politics, obviously most notably on January 6th.
Yeah, Major, to that point, we have seen Donald Trump be able to evade political consequences, legal consequences up until now. Today changes that.
Today changes that in a legal context. The former president said that won't matter on November 5th because I will give my answer and my voters and supporters will give their answer and re-elect me. My legal answer is a political answer. And for the better part of the weeks that this has been proceeding in New York, former president has availed himself of every opportunity to, as John said, criticize, if not denigrate the legal system and make a political plea. I am being persecuted. I am being singled out. And many of his Republican supporters look at the judge and say there are Democratic connections there, financial and otherwise, to candidates or the prosecutors. What they haven't said, however, and all those things are true, that doesn't mean this case is illegitimately brought, but they are points of political conversation that have a legitimacy to them. But what they don't say is evidence submitted before the jurors was fraudulent. Those checks aren't made up. The checks that have Donald Trump's signature on them, and the testimony of one of his closest friends, David Pecker, who ran the National Enquirer, was emphatic. We talked about it. We launched this. This was a scheme. This was to influence the election, and I was part of it. The critics of this process are not assailing either those checks or that evidentiary pattern the prosecutors laid before the jury or the most relevant and compelling testimony about what those checks represented. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that's going to persist as we debate what this verdict does or doesn't mean. The former president and his Republican supporters will say it means that the justice system is completely unraveling. Those who support this verdict will say, wait a minute, what's the evidence say? Are you contesting the evidence? And until Republicans start actually contesting that evidence, I think they are going to have to acknowledge they are not on as firm legal footing as they might think.
And, you know, this happened in the context of a legal proceeding. As much as the former president and allies are describing this as a political theater, it was not. This is a jury of 12 people, Jan, a jury of the former president's peers. How do you imagine that they arrived at this decision? Unanimous on all counts.
And swiftly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I think, how quickly it came down after they took, obviously, quite thorough looks at testimony and instructions reread. And the jurors, the judge has said that they're free to talk. So we're all going to eagerly be waiting what some jurors choose to say or not about how they did reach this verdict. I mean, it was a New York jury coming from all walks of life, as New York is. You had 2 lawyers, you had, people from a variety of jobs who get their news from a variety of sources. What you're going to see and what we've already seen from Trump and his allies is that this is a New York jury in a state that, in an area that goes overwhelmingly Democratic, and that will play well to his base and in certain swing states. And I think one of the things that, we now have this first ever conviction of a president, of a presidential candidate. He is a convicted felon, but this was just one of 4 potential trials that he could have faced. And, to that extent, yes, this is a run-of-the-mill business trial. Some people equated it to, prosecuting Al Capone on tax evasion charges, so he is convicted. But there were other cases that I thought were more, and, the timing-wise, this is the one that came up first, but you had the classified documents case in Florida. You had the prosecution by the special counsel, Jack Smith, for the actions, which are video and phone calls of January 6th in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Those allegations are in some ways easier to get your hands around, to say, like, the severity of this.
Right.
That, yes, we can see the consequences of trying to overturn an election. Yes, classified documents need to remain classified for a reason, and it is in Florida, which is not New York, obviously. So I think you're going to see in the days ahead efforts, and we've already seen it, to undermine not only this indictment, this prosecution, this jury, this judge, and there will be people who believe that. And that goes to, I think, what John is also saying, that we're in a moment at this point in this country where the legitimacy of our institutions has been under attack, often by Donald Trump, and people's faith in those institutions is eroding. And I think in some ways that's a very troubling moment, in addition to the specter of violence and the other things that John pointed out. That's a troubling moment for our country.
Absolutely. We have to leave it there, but John, Major, Jan, thank you for the context, the analysis, and the reporting on this historic day. We appreciate it. And this verdict could have major implications for Donald Trump's re-election bid. Our CBS News political director will have an update on where things stand and the reaction from Trump's inner circle. You're streaming America Decides.
Washington is the seat of power. National security, foreign policy, global economics, every story comes through Washington in some way. We bring some of the most powerful voices in America to the table. We don't just ask the questions, you have to go deeper. We try to understand what's at the heart of the issue we're talking about, to then come forward with solutions.
Face the Nation on CBS.
The justices ruled that Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
In the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions, uncertainty sets in for some students of color.
Affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity.
CBS Reports explores the historic decision and what it means for those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle.
The end of affirmative action, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Okay, let's go.
You guys good?
Hey.
All right, we good?
Keep going. The clock, it's ticking.
Off we go.
60 minutes. 60 minutes.
60 minutes.
It's time for 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
Let's go to AP. Oh. What? How did you get behind me? How did you get behind me? Fucker. Asshole. Fuck. Alright, now I have to get the kid I just lost back. Seven. Friday night is good. We're gonna get some good kills here. I get a kill here. I get two kids. No one's gonna loot him, huh? No one's gonna loot him. I'm gonna go out there and try and get it. Yeah! I got the important stuff. Now to go back for the unimportant stuff. It's lagging. Had the wrong gun, damn it. What happened to the other gun that I had? Did I die or something? Did I dump it all in there? What happened to the other gun that I had? What happened to the other gun I had? Where did my Python go? Oh, right, I dumped it in the box. Yeah, there we go. So, this sucks. I don't want that. I want that. Okay, so I don't think they're watching that, but anyways, I want to put you a little lower. Fuck was that? Fuck was that? Yeah, this is a fun little shooting gallery, right? If I open up and then, well, I open up with this. I'm gonna open up with that. Yep, and I'll just keep a normal scope. Do I have a hollow sight? I guess I don't. I'll have to buy it. That's alright. I need to actually be able to... Yep. I need to actually be able to... Alright. I want to put this like a little forward where it won't block. Perfect. Then... these rugs and no comfort. It's so weird. I don't want this one. I want to be able to just see the whole shebang. Fun as hell. What happened? I don't see them. No sign of life. I love my little sniper roost. Oh. When I get a SAR, it's over. I never really realized how good that alley is. I should chop all these trees. Oh, there's that body out there that I totally spaced. I have to pee. I'll be right back. Fun as hell. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. I can hear him. I can hear someone. I am low health, which makes no sense. I guess I died? I don't remember dying, but okay.
Changing technology.
We've rescued 4.5 million pounds.
I can't even fathom how much food that is.
And that's one little person in one little city in America. We're going to call this chicken piccata. We did 450 of these meals today.
This is the exact dish
Yep,
you and I are going to have.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
This is constantly commercials. Give me AP press. Let's try ABC.
In that weird 15-minute period where it seemed like the jury was going home for the day. So I think that shock to the system really has reverberated throughout Trump's inner circle, his family, Trump Tower. But not a lot of surprise at the result. I mean, you know, there were many people going into it. I mean, Donald Trump himself said Mother Teresa could not beat these charges, almost prepping themselves that this could not go his way. So I think that, coupled with the fact that, you know, an argument Donald Trump and his allies have made for so long, Lindsay, that it's New York. He couldn't get a fair shake in New York. And look, Donald Trump and New York have been going through, what I would best say, is a massive divorce over the last couple of years. This is a guy that made it in Manhattan and has nothing to do with Manhattan anymore, right? Think about where Donald Trump lives. Think about how many properties around New York that once bore his name, they no longer do. You think of the ice skating rink in Central Park, the golf course, there's so many others. And his children, all three of Donald Trump's adult children once lived in Manhattan, Lindsay. Now none of them do. They have all moved with Donald Trump down to the Sunshine State of Florida. I do think the other thing that's interesting right now is how quickly the campaign is going to try to turn a page here. Look, the press conference that's going to happen tomorrow, that's Donald Trump, right? He wants to get out there. He wants to fight back. Look at the images that we saw earlier tonight when he returned to Trump Tower, punching his fist in the air. That is certainly the image Donald Trump wants to create as somebody who's strong and tough and is going to fight back. But the reality is the campaign
More like
wants to flip this script immediately
It was
and move
Sig
ahead
Heil
to
me.
really the campaign.
And as you said, certainly reminiscent of what we saw in the days after that Access Hollywood video of Donald Trump emerging with that fist pump. John Santucci, thank you so much, as always. And now we do want to reset, and I will say good evening once again. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with that historic breaking news. The former leader of the free world, Donald Trump, now a convicted felon, guilty on all 34 counts in a criminal trial here in New York City. Trump is now the first former president in U.S. history to ever be convicted of a crime. It took just 10 hours of deliberation for the jury to find Trump guilty of all 34 counts of falsifying business records in his New York hush money trial. The former president blasted the verdict as he left the courthouse, headed for Trump Tower.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial, but the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Here you can see all 34 charges coming back guilty. A short time later, DA Alvin Bragg addressed the verdict after many initially questioned the viability of him bringing this case forward. 7 men and 5 women, all New Yorkers from Trump's home city, came to this decision. After it all today, Trump returned to Trump Tower, gave a fist in the air before walking inside. Trump's sentencing is now set for July 11th. That's just 4 days before the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. As far as how this will reverberate across the country for both the Trump and Biden campaigns and the American people, our team is standing by to cover it all. Our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky, leads us off.
Tonight, former President Donald Trump defiant, arriving home at Trump Tower after being found guilty as charged of all 34 counts of falsifying business records. Trump, now a convicted felon. The historic verdict coming after nearly 10 hours of deliberations. A unanimous jury of 12 New Yorkers made Trump the first president in history to be a convicted criminal. It was an extraordinary turn in the courtroom. Just moments before jurors signaled they had a verdict, Judge Juan Merchan indicated he was going to excuse them for the day. Then a dramatic shift. Trump went from joking with his attorneys to sitting stone-faced, looking down as the jury read the verdict count by count. Prosecutors proving Trump falsified business records to conceal a $130,000 hush payment to porn actress Stormy Daniels to keep her story from voters before the 2016 election. The former president then marching out of the courtroom with his lawyer Todd Blanche by his side.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
And outside court, cheers could be heard in the crowd as news of Trump's conviction spread. Guilty! Yeah, man! The trial lasting 7 weeks, 22 witnesses taking the stand, including Trump's former fixer and lawyer Michael Cohen, who Trump's defense team called the greatest liar of all time. Cohen late today releasing a statement saying today is an important day for accountability and the rule of law. While it has been a difficult journey for me and my family, the truth always matters. And Stormy Daniels in a statement tonight saying no man is above the law. Trump seen leaving the courtroom late today, getting into his SUV, surrounded by security. Judge Juan Merchan thanked the jury for their handling of a very stressful and difficult task, saying you were excused with the gratitude of the court. Court dismissed. The sentencing date for Donald Trump, July 11th, just 4 days before the Republican National Convention.
Our thanks to Aaron Katursky. And joining us now is Ty Cobb, former Trump White House attorney. Ty, thank you so much for joining us. You had predicted a guilty verdict all along. How did you come to that conclusion?
Nice to be with you, Lindsay. So I came to that conclusion in large part just based on my experience as a federal prosecutor for many years and a criminal defense attorney. The way the indictment was drafted and the way the evidence came in supporting that indictment and the jury instructions, really all basically dictated a guilty verdict. I think the issues with this case have always been more legal than factual. And we'll have to wait and see how this is treated by the various appellate courts. There's certainly serious due process issues with regard to the application of the statute and notice and intent issues with regard particularly to the alleged crime that may have been covered up, whatever that crime may have been, between the election law cases, the tax cases, and the other record-keeping cases, as they were explained to the jury. So I think this conviction was very predictable. I think it's likely to withstand appeal, but I think there are serious issues on appeal. But the conviction itself, I think the jurors did their work, took it seriously, and based on what they were told to do, they got it right.
You worked very closely with Trump. You have a good sense of his personality and demeanor. How will this verdict impact Trump's professional relationship, most likely going forward with attorney Todd Blanche? Do you think that he would keep him on the team going forward for potentially an appeal?
He better. Blanche is one of the better lawyers on the team. Certainly a much better lawyer than Alina Habba. But Trump's going to be angry. He's going to be angry at Blanche. He's going to be angry at basically anybody who was in the building at the time the verdict happened. He'll be denigrating the jurors soon, in addition to the judge. But that's all short-term stuff. I think the reality is we have to just go down the road a little bit. He's got other serious legal matters, but none of those. I don't believe any of those will go to trial in advance of the election. And I think this is probably the most consequential legal event that will happen in advance of the election. And I think we should all take a minute back, step back, whether people are dancing in the street with people like Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels while they're expounding on the rule of law for some reason, or whether people are up in arms about it. Whether you're happy for Trump or grateful that he was convicted, reality is as Americans, we have to think about the fact that we're not a country where one of our former presidents has gone to court and been found a convicted felon. And I think that should be sad for all of us, and certainly says a lot about the country that we are. And more importantly, he's the leading candidate for the next presidential election, which I think we all should reflect on. And what does that say about America? I think it's sad that we have a choice like that. I think it's sad that we've come to this in history, and I think we really need to reassess what are we going to demand from leaders. Are we going to let people like this be our leaders, or are we going to up our standards to where the founders, I think, believed that they should be?
Yep. I've been asking this question throughout the evening. Just curious to get your take as far as with July 11th, you have the sentencing, and then it sounds like then the appeal process would take place. But would the sentence likely begin before the appeal process?
Typically not. Typically in a white collar case involving a first offender who's almost 80, that defendant would almost certainly get bond pending appeal, and would be out pending appeal, even if he got an incarcerative sentence, which is by no means guaranteed. Although it's more likely with regard to Trump, given his contempt for the legal system, than it would be for anybody else convicted under this statute. No, I think the simple answer is no. I don't expect that he would serve the sentence in advance of a final appeal, and I also don't believe he would be his ability to travel or any other restrictions of consequence will be imposed prior to the election.
If that's the case, I've been hearing from a number of people today saying, what does this mean then? If jail time is not really, even though it's an option, but it's unlikely, if he were to potentially have to do home confinement or probation, but can still run for president, can still vote for himself, what does a guilty verdict really mean?
Well, I think it means that he's a convicted felon, and he committed the crimes at least as charged, whether those crimes are sustained on appeal or not. 12 serious citizens, jury of his peers, New Yorkers found him, unanimously guilty of 34 crimes. I think it means that, and should impact people as they weigh their decision in November, whether it will or not. We'll have to see. It's certainly not the case that the January 6th case involving failure to allow the peaceful transfer of power, or the Mar-a-Lago case involving the use and abuse and retention of classified documents are. Each of those cases, would likely carry a 6 to 9 year sentence of imprisonment, in my view. So it's not those cases, and it's sad that we didn't get a resolution on those in advance of the election. But I think I think the fact that he is now a convicted felon, that should weigh on every voter and every American.
I am curious, since you were able to anticipate this guilty verdict ahead of time, and as you just mentioned, you don't think that you'll get resolution on those other 3 cases. What do you think will ever, at least before the election, do those go by the wayside? What do you anticipate happens with those other 3?
Well, I think only if Trump wins do the 2 federal cases go by the wayside. If Trump doesn't prevail, he will end up going to trial, certainly in D.C. on the failure to allow the lawful transfer of power case, and in Florida on the classified documents case. Although in Florida he won't go to trial with the current judge. She'll be removed for her palpable ineptitude and bias in advance of any such trial. But if he wins, both of those cases will be dismissed by his Justice Department, and they will go away forever. With regard to the Georgia case, he can't make that go away. But if he wins again, the likelihood is, although it's not guaranteed and there's no precedent for it, the likelihood is that that case would be delayed until after he served his term in office or was impeached.
Ty Cobb, so appreciate your analysis tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure. Nice to be with you.
And now let's bring in ABC's senior national correspondent, Terry Moran. Terry, thank you for joining us. I want to talk about the former president, his grounds for appeal. First, let's hear his reaction right after the verdict was read.
This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win.
No surprise, you blame the Biden administration there, but kind of walk us through. It sounds like, from what we're hearing, the appeal process for a criminal conviction is not quite an easy task.
Oh, it's a difficult task, Lindsay. Once a jury convicts a defendant of a crime, the appeals courts begin with the presumption that that verdict is correct and true and sound. So it's an uphill climb from the get-go. That's why a lot of a lot of people convicted of crimes, they try appeals, they don't work. Trump will do the same. He has, as Ty Cobb, your previous guest, just said, he's got some serious grounds of appeal, some of them very familiar. He'll say the massive pretrial publicity, prevented him from getting a fair trial. There should have been a change in venue. He'll complain about some of the judge's rulings on the admission of evidence. But there are some serious federal issues here as well. Remember, this is a New York State case. Trump was charged with misdemeanor counts of falsifying business records. They became felonies under New York law because the district attorney said those crimes were committed in pursuit of another crime. What was that other crime? Trump was never told that before the trial. And neither were the jurors until the last day in the prosecutor's closing arguments. Now, New York state law allows for this. It's the so-called object offense of the scheme. But the Supreme Court has never looked at that squarely, and they may well decide that Trump's rights, constitutional rights under the Sixth Amendment right to be informed, fully informed of the charges against you, maybe that right was violated. That's one avenue for appeal that might work.
In his sentencing, the judge will likely consider if the defendant accepts responsibility. So every time Trump attacks the court system, is he in essence saying that he doesn't?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is one of the foundational aspects of post-conviction law that the defendant should accept the truth and soundness of the verdict and that he or she has broken the law. When they don't, it's harder to get parole, obviously. You know that if prison is part of this. It doesn't look like it will be, but it also means that the judge will try to send a signal, not just to the defendant, but to others. The jury's verdict is, unless an appeals court overturns it, final and sound and true, and must be accepted by the defendant and by the community.
164.
And so I think that Trump is likely to get himself a harsher sentence here the more he spews contempt on the whole process.
District Attorney Alvin Bragg boosted the misdemeanor charges into felonies in this case, but does he have the authority to enforce federal election law?
Now, that is a very interesting question that I personally think the Supreme Court might want to take a look at. Because, once again, these cases are grounded in Trump's falsifying those business documents in pursuit of committing another crime, that crime, federal election crimes. That's what the Manhattan District Attorney said were at issue here. And it's kind of a basic principle that the Department of Justice enforces the federal law, not local prosecutors. That's to avoid confusion and all kinds of things. And the Supreme Court has long had a doctrine that local courts should defer to federal agencies like the Federal Election Commission to prosecute and pursue violations of those statutes. And so, yeah, it's quite possible that the Supreme Court would take up a case that District Attorney Alvin Bragg doesn't have the authority to enforce federal law.
So they may be brought up into this once again. Terry Moran, our thanks to you. I want to bring in ABC's chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, from the White House. Curious how the White House is reacting tonight.
Well, tonight we still have not heard directly from President Biden yet. He's actually home at his Delaware beach house. This is the 9th anniversary of his son Beau's death, so he's spending some private time with the family. The campaign, however, has spoken out, and they say that today shows that there is no one who is above the law. Look, there is no question that this verdict is a political gift to the president and to Democrats, but his campaign has notably not wanted to celebrate this too much. They don't want to feed into this Trump narrative that this was all somehow a political hit job. That, of course, is something that the president adamantly rejects. Instead, in what was really a kind of muted statement, the campaign says that today's verdict does not change the fact that there is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office. They say that is at the ballot box. They say convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president, Lindsay.
And as he said, the real verdict will be on November 5th. President Biden has taken his fair share of jabs at Trump and his legal woes. How might today's guilty verdict impact Biden's campaign messaging moving forward?
Well, look, I'm told not to expect it to really impact his overall message much at all. They are not going to make this, a centerpiece of the campaign message. They're not going to upend their whole playbook because of this. The message that is coming from the campaign tonight is that they're going to keep on keeping on. That said, obviously they want to take advantage of this. I'm sure the president will, comment on this verdict, and it will be a line that is added to his stump speech for sure. But they say that they are still going to keep making the argument that they've been making, which is essentially that Donald Trump is unfit to be president. And again, underscoring that message that was in that statement that, regardless of what the court does, what happens to Donald Trump, his future is up to voters, not the court, Lindsay.
And Trump is still a major obstacle for Biden, despite his legal challenges. As we've mentioned, the latest ABC News Ipsos poll shows 80% of Trump supporters say that they will continue to support him post-conviction. Polls also show Biden support among certain groups of black voters. They're waning. Do we expect Biden to start appealing to different groups or voters in different ways?
Yeah, look, I think you definitely will see that. I mean, we've already seen that this week, the campaign now making a big renewed push, this burst of outreach that we've seen to black voters, a critical group that helped deliver him the White House in 2020, a group that he's going to need, and he knows he's going to need if he wants to stay here for a second term. I think they also are well aware, the Biden campaign, that this is going to really shore up Trump's support among his base. They know that he's likely to see record-breaking fundraising coming out of this. It's actually something that the Biden team and the Biden campaign has mentioned in their own fundraising appeals tonight, that they need their supporters to come out as well in response to this verdict. But remember, that is likely to be really Trump's base. What happens in this election really just comes down to a very small sliver of the electorate, and those are the ones that we will be watching so closely in the coming days, especially to see how they respond to this verdict.
We certainly will be. Mary Bruce from the White House, our thanks to you. Joining us now is ABC News Deputy Political Director Avery Harper. Avery, we've talked about it a number of different ways. We're in uncharted territory. There is no playbook for this. It's unprecedented. The presumptive GOP nominee is now a convicted felon. What happens next?
I think what's more remarkable is that nothing is really going to change. He is still, regardless of this conviction, the presumptive presidential nominee for the Republican Party, and he is still on his way to accepting that nomination in July. I mean, just days after he will be sentenced for this case. And so it's really interesting to see how much Republicans have rallied around the former president despite this verdict tonight, and we'll see what happens come November, because of course the big question is exactly how this is going to affect folks going out to the polls. We know that there is some polling that indicates that there is a portion of Trump supporters who might withdraw or reconsider their support, but by far the vast majority have told us, and polling of course taken before this verdict was came down, that they would still support the former president even if convicted of a felony.
What do we think timeline-wise? Does this at all change the plan, the schedule with regard to when he announces his VP pick?
Well, I think because we're going to see that sentencing come just days before the RNC convention, that could be a great time for the Trump campaign to take advantage of all of the attention on him. Like we've seen this entire trial, we've seen the campaign try to take advantage of the developments that have happened in court. We've seen them try to take advantage of the media attention on this case. And so I think that we can anticipate that they'll try to make the most of the attention that he's getting, good or bad, for this case, and try to get that potential VP candidate, that VP pick out on the campaign trail. This could be a boon to their fundraising. This could become a rallying cry for the Trump base. It just all remains to be seen.
Yeah, the Trump campaign has already said that their website has crashed as a result of so many people trying to make contributions. We have seen on days off from the trial, Trump has often chosen to go to Mar-a-Lago instead of hitting the campaign trail. Do you think that that might change at this point?
I think we have to wait and see. What we do know is that even though he has not been on the campaign trail consistently, that he has been able to maintain the support of his supporters. Those are diehard Trump supporters who are out there who are galvanized by the fact that he is dealing with all of these legal woes. We know that this might be the only trial that we see that happens for him before Election Day, but it by itself has been a boon to his campaign. It has been something that has rallied his supporters. It has been something that has benefited their fundraising. And so I think they're going to continue to harp on that. They're going to continue to talk about that in hopes of getting folks not only to support him in the meantime, but also support him in November.
We've heard House Speaker Mike Johnson call this a shameful day in America. Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan called the verdict a travesty of justice. Does it seem like the GOP as a party is falling in line in support of Donald Trump, their presumptive nominee, and against this verdict?
I think it's reflective of what this current Republican Party is. It is the party of Donald Trump. He is the standard bearer in this GOP. And so we've seen folks all across the Republican Party come out with statements in support of former President Trump despite this guilty verdict. And so I think we can anticipate seeing more of the same in the future.
What about Nikki Haley, who suspended her campaign but did forecast this moment as a possibility? She campaigned on it, saying, what if? Well, here we are. Have we heard any reaction from her or her campaign tonight?
No reaction from Nikki Haley tonight, but what we do know from looking at exit polls from some of the primaries that happened earlier this year is that her supporters are not necessarily sold on former President Trump, particularly in the event of him being convicted of a crime. And so I think that the Trump campaign would have to do some overtime in order to appeal to her supporters, especially now that he has been convicted of a felony.
All right, Avery Harper, our thanks to you as always. Florida law allows Donald Trump to vote in the state despite his conviction today, but only after he completes his sentence. Now, we won't know what that sentence is until July 11th, but his eligibility to vote in Florida remains. And it's in Florida that the former president will find himself yet again in less than a month, this time over his classified documents case. Our senior reporter who covers investigations for us, Catherine Falders, joins us now with more. Catherine, what exactly will be reviewed during that Florida hearing next month, and what's at stake?
Yeah, so this is just 3 weeks away, Lindsay, and it's important because these are a series of hearings that the judge overseeing that case has scheduled. They're motions to dismiss hearings. Trump is trying to get his case tossed out in a number of different avenues. So also important here is that he doesn't have to physically go to these hearings. He's not required to be there in court for these, but he will be, at least I'm told he will be now, and the judge has scheduled a bunch of hearings over the course of 4 days. So it really goes back to Trump trying to use his legal battles to capitalize politically here. We've heard a lot about how his advisors, his campaign advisors, I've been told by people inside his campaign, they're excited for him to shift his focus, Lindsay, and get back out on the campaign trail. While he might be doing that in some respects, he is choosing to show up to courthouses across the country where he faces multiple other charges. Now, he's facing 40 felony counts in Florida, and that is for his mishandling, of course, of classified documents and obstructing the government's efforts to retrieve them. It's important because these are arguably some of the more serious charges that he's facing, but they ultimately probably won't go to trial. The judge there has delayed this case quite a bit. So this one here in New York is probably the only criminal trial that you will see occur before November.
Is there any expectation? Well, I guess that you just answered my next question. So we don't think that there'll be any resolution of the classified documents case anytime before November?
Well, and it's a good question because that's how it seems now, but we just don't know. This judge has scheduled the series of hearings on motions, which typically judges don't schedule hearings on motions, but she has here, and the special counsel, Jack Smith himself, shows up to a lot of these, and they hash it out for quite some time. Look, it doesn't seem that this is going to trial before the election. Jack Smith's team seems to know as much. And I just think it's worth emphasizing, though, that Trump is charged with, of course, his mishandling of classified documents ranging from nuclear secrets to nuclear capabilities of other countries. He is set to receive intelligence briefings again, classified briefings after the convention. He will most likely receive those. So he will be literally seeing the information again that he is charged with mishandling, Lindsay.
Really fascinating. All right, Catherine Falders, our thanks to you. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Lindsay Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com. The news never stops. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning. To catch you up with what happened overnight. Police in riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about. The migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate. Militants came in from different directions. Nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag not a carry in it. How important it made the USA. Great work.
Hi. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ismail?
David.
David.
I'm David Muir.
I know you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Team is America's most watched newscast.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you? I hated the Brat Pack. What a disaster.
Why did we take it as an offense? Andrew?
I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything. Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. 1985? I think we could.
Friday night,
Oh my God! Somebody has my daughter.
All new 2020 True Crime
I just remember it was madness.
has a case we all thought was solved.
Holly Bobo.
Holly Bobo.
Holly Bobo.
Been blown wide open.
Do you think the jury got this one wrong?
Absolutely.
Now, never before seen video of a key witness changing his story.
What does he tell you?
Tells me he made the whole thing up.
The all-new 2020, Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning. To catch you up with what happened overnight. Police in riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about. The migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th.
I'm gonna go pee while I sit in this bush. I want to kill this guy and then burn him out because he built right by me. I don't know. I guess all I can do right now is lose the pistol. I want to chuck Molotovs at the back of his wall and burn him out. I believe I will do so. Yep, I will do so in 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna burn this guy out. He built on my goddamn doorstep, and I can't have that. So here we go. We're gonna go burn him out. I need a few rounds though. Yeah, that'll probably do. Yep. And I'll keep it quiet too, so I don't get grubs. Yep. Seems good. Fuel should go away. Okay, here we go. Maybe I should have just gone through the roof with the ladder. I don't know. What's it at now? Almost. Is that gonna be enough? It's not enough, is it? No. But that's alright, I'll just go make more. Fuck this guy. Don't build on my doorstep. Okay, so looking for animal fat, cloth, any kind of animal fat or cloth or fuel. Animal fat, cloth, or fuel. Animal fat, cloth, or fuel. Resources, fuel, go. While you're doing that, I want to pull out a jackhammer. Jackhammer? Jackhammer. There's a jackhammer. Actually, instant healing is good. And then... Oh, wait, no, I need that. And, yeah, I want you to make me, like, a couple of more Molotovs, right? Molotov, yep. Okay, go. Okay, fuel and cloth and stuff. I don't need this cloth, so...
Been examined.
Yeah, I'm sure I have been. Am I running in place? No, I'm not. Come on, burn, damn it. Thank you. I haven't recouped on some of the fuel cost. What else you got in there? Nope. Sorry. Go. Fuck was that? Fuck, that was close. Fuck was that? Are you rocketing this next door fucking neighbor? You are. Shit, you are. Okay, well, where are my guns at? I think they're... well, there's some of them. Yeah. Need my guns. Gonna need a good sniper weapon. There, we'll rock this for a little while and see what we can do with this. Yep. Seems good to me. Okay, so you're hitting these people next door. Maybe if I leave them alone... I mean... Oh, god damn it. What the fuck was that? What was that? Oh my god. Fucking so dumb. Go back. I wasn't gonna shoot at him. I didn't even shoot at him. Fuck that. Fucking sick of this. Come on, motherfucker. Oh my god. What the fuck? I'm not gonna shoot you. Fucking relax. Fucking pricks. I could have fucked with them so bad, and I haven't been. Leave me alone.
Team poll.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning
America's #1 early morning news.
on ABC News Live.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate. Militants came in from different directions. Nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag out of carry in it. How important it made the USA. Great work.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ismael? David.
I'm David Muir.
I know you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Shohei Ohtani, legends of the game. But now the list of greats redefined. From ABC News, Reclaim the Forgotten League. A side of the story of baseball you have never heard before like this. The award-winning podcast is back.
So I could fuck with these guys. I could go over there and mess with them a lot. I could make myself a target. They could be like, oh, we can make him next. Or I could just be the eye in the sky who just sits here and observes what they do, you know? And I don't fuck with them. I don't, you know, I don't mess with them. Smart man leaves them alone. I haven't fired a shot at them. I have not interfered. I have not crossed the boundary. I have not messed with them, and I hope they remember that. A lot of Russ is about politics. So if you're just like, you know, if you just don't fuck with anybody, you're good. You don't give them a reason, you know? Oh. What? This scope is not helping. I'm just going to put it away. I think my neighbors are home, and that's annoying.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts or scan the QR codes you see here.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air in the West. Former President Donald Trump found guilty on all counts. Tonight, Donald Trump railing against the verdict.
This was a disgrace.
The jury, 7 men and 5 women, convicting the former president on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records involving the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. Trump sitting stone-faced in court, shaking his head at times as the jury delivered its verdict. Tonight, when Trump will be sentenced, Dan Abrams is here on what Trump potentially faces. What could the judge decide when it comes to sentencing? And what does this mean for the race for president? The reaction tonight inside Trump's campaign. Aaron Katersky outside the courthouse, Mary Bruce at the White House, Rachel Scott with reaction on the Hill. The other news this Thursday night, the major turn in the war in Ukraine. The Biden administration giving Ukraine permission now to use American weapons to strike inside parts of Russia. Back in the U.S. in the West tonight, the verdict in the trial of doomsday cult leader Chad Daybell, accused of killing his first wife, then accused of killing his new wife's 2 children. What the jury decided. In New York City's Times Square, the harrowing scene tonight, a man attacked with a machete, an area packed with tourists. Tonight, the CDC confirming a 3rd human case of bird flu here in the U.S., where it's been discovered. And we're tracking severe storms at this hour across multiple states, possible tornadoes and damaging winds, and the threat now stretching east tomorrow. Flu here in the U.S. But we start here with the other news and a major turn on Ukraine, a major reversal from the White House tonight. The Biden administration giving Ukraine permission now to strike inside parts of Russia with American-made weapons for the first time. Here's Martha Raddatz.
Tonight, with the Russian assault on Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv, intensifying, the Biden administration has made a major reversal, allowing U.S.-supplied weapons to be fired inside Russia. For years, the administration balked at the idea, fearing a strike on Russia itself with U.S.-made weapons could draw the U.S. into direct conflict with Russia. U.S. officials insisting tonight the U.S. weapons will be used only to strike Russian military sites that are being used to launch weapons into Kharkiv. More than a dozen other Western countries have also approved weapons being used inside Russia. But Vladimir Putin already with a threatening response, calling it an escalation, another step towards a serious conflict in Europe and around the globe. It will be the Pentagon that will coordinate exactly where the weapons can strike inside Russia. But, David, there is no question this is a big change. David?
Martha Raddatz reporting from Washington tonight. Martha, thank you. We turn next tonight to the guilty verdict in the West in a case that made national headlines, the trial of doomsday cult leader Chad Daybell, accused of killing his first wife and then accused of killing his current wife's 2 children. Here's Mola Lengi.
More than 4 years after the murders of his first wife and his girlfriend's children made national headlines, doomsday author Chad Daybell facing his own judgment day.
Guilty.
A jury convicting the Idaho father of conspiring with then-girlfriend Lori Vallow to kill Tammy Daybell and Lori's 2 children, 7-year-old Joshua Vallow and his 16-year-old sister, Tylee. The charred bodies of the kids found in a shallow grave behind Daybell's home.
3 dead bodies. And for what?
For what?
Money, power, and sex. That's what the defendant cared about.
Lori Daybell is now serving a life sentence. Prosecutors said the couple, who married weeks after the murders, wanted to start a new life and profited from the victims' insurance benefits. Daybell used apocalyptic religious beliefs to justify the murders, claiming the victims had turned into zombies who had to be killed.
Well, Chad Daybell's sentencing hearing begins tomorrow when the judge is expected to hear victim impact statements. Again, Daybell is facing the death penalty.
All right, Mola Lengi in Los Angeles tonight. Mola, thank you. When we come back here tonight, a harrowing scene in the heart of New York City. A man attacked with a machete in Times Square, packed with tourists, what we've just learned. Also, a new case of bird flu here in the U.S. and where it's been discovered tonight. And these severe storms now moving through this evening, multiple states in a moment.
does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
Where are you? Where are you? Appreciate you. Thank you, David. Good to meet you. Ismail? David. David! Yes, yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
My neighbors are getting raided. Look, my neighbors are getting raided. They're getting rocketed. Yeah. I'm not stopping. I should get a scope. I should get the scope. Where's the scope at? Oh god, I can't remember. There it is. I love this server. I can just sit here and watch what's happening. It doesn't matter. My neighbors are getting raided, and that's a really good thing. They're off my back. You know what I'm saying? Fuck them. Fuck them in their stupid asses. Fuck them.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
I experienced a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy. You're gonna feel lonely. It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment.
And the CMA award.
What? He's dead. The other guy doesn't know. I gotta put all the valuable stuff away. All the valuable stuff anyways, yeah. Right, and I'll put on this so I have protection, and I'm going out. I'm gonna try and loot. He doesn't know the other target's dead. I do. So we'll just take the risk, because who cares, right? See if I can loot him. Oop. Being shot. Ooh. Gonna try and loot him. Idiot. I used the wrong gun. What? Oh my god, it's an LR. For fuck's sake, come on, you fucking F it. What happened here? Did he live? Yeah, he lived. Where is my fucking python? There it is. Fun fight, fun fight. Fucking idiot. This was so fun. I need more bullets now. I have to like refrain. I have to refrain because I'm out of bullets. I have empty guns, you know. I don't know. There's something funny that I can do. I'll sit up there with a suppressed pump shotgun. I think, yeah, and an 8X, and I'll run suppressor if I have it. Do I have it? I don't know where. Oh, look, there's more bullets actually. Wait, never mind. I'll just run 8X on that, and I'll try to fuck them over. I think there's dead bodies out there. Oh, look. What was that sound? Oh. Fuck, really? Fucking annoying. Ah. I need a bolty, but I don't have one. There. I need to chop that tree. That tree is so annoying. I need to fix it. I'm gonna go chop that tree. Fuck these guys. They're gonna hear me do it. I'm gonna go chop this fucking tree right in front of them, right? I'll fucking do it fast, too. I'll go out there with a chainsaw. Yeah, I'll go out there with a chainsaw and I'll fucking chop all the trees that are blocking me from seeing everybody. It's fucking annoying, right? Yeah, like, I don't need to invest a lot here. Yeah, right as it's dark, right? I could even, like, MVG, but I don't need to. These fucking trees are so annoying. Fuck these trees. They're like, what? Yeah, I chopped the trees, bitch. You're not getting free passage in front of me anymore. You're not doing that anymore. I'm gonna fucking waste you now. They're like, what was that sound? And it was me chopping the trees between you and me, bitch. That's the barrier between you and me. It's gone now. I'm gonna fuck you up. Fuck you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5. This guy's distracting me really bad. I want to see what he's doing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know where these things come from. I just do them. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Ice day. Damn it. Stupid ice day. I have to make bullets now and I don't want to. Oh no you don't. Oh no you don't, bitch. Oh no you don't. No you don't. You think you are, but you're not. No, you aren't. Yep. What did you drop? I don't care. Motherfucker. I've been done told you, stop trying to build right outside my base. I gotta go get a Molotov and burn his TC. What's he got in there? Probably a lot of stuff. Let's go see. Fucking so annoying. Looking for a Molotov. Looking for a Molotov. Molotov, 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 Molotov. Nope. Molotov, 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 Molotov. Nope. I don't know where they are. Molotov. Nope. Molotov, Molotov. Nope. Oh, what's that? That's not. Okay, Molotov, Molotov. Where are the Molotovs? There. Okay, so. Fuck this guy. You're not building here. I'm sorry, but no. And I don't care if I lose this pump shotgun. Fuck that. You're not fucking building here, bitch. What was that? You like dropped my fucking frames, asshole. Ah. God damn it. That's right. Take that, TC. I don't care about this. Fucking annoying, though. see what I can do with these. God damn it, man. One bow doesn't beat a shotgun? What are you talking about? What? Oh, yeah. Wrong one. God damn it. Fucking annoying. Suck, idiot. Oh. Why is this bed taking so long? It's so annoying. Hey, did you guys like how I chopped all your trees because you're bad? You sat there for 7 minutes while I chopped your trees, and you kind of suck dick like maybe the worst Rust players who ever played. You ever thought about that? You ever thought about how you might have grubs coming? Or my friends. You don't really know. Oh. Remember how badly this went for you last time, you fucking scrubs? Remember when I took your MP5, your 4 Tommies, and your fucking Python with a hunting bow? Because you're bad? Why did you spawn me in the wrong bed? Oh well, I'm gonna go try and shut my door. guys aren't even mid. You're low. You're not even mid. You're low. You're low. Look how low you are, dude. You're so bad. Like you get schooled by somebody without even weapons. Right here in front of you. See how bad you are? You're like so bad. You're low. You're not even mid. You're low. Now you're about to die to everybody else. You're fucking so bad. Look at you get scrubbed by people who are way better than you. You fucking idiots. Thank you.